again.
Yep.
On another episode of the End of Time cast. I'm Michael.
I'm Chris.
It's been a week, Chris.
It has.
I guess I'm just going to say that at the beginning of every episode so people will know these are week-long durations in between. I'm going to go ahead and start the weeks off, Chris.
All right.
Because I have a actually from last week. And it's a pretty big one.
Oh.
So I went through my week last week talking about all the shit that I was doing, all the shit that happened, movies watched, etc., etc. I'm going to do that again this week, obviously. But I forgot a very big, not necessarily important, but I left out a large chunk of something else that I played. And I don't know how, I just completely forgot to mention it. I also played Kingdom Hearts 1 last week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, as of around this recording, E3 has passed. There's been a lot of buzz about Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out. And before I get into my plays, my playthrough of Kingdom Hearts 1, let's have a real quick Michael and Chris powwow about Kingdom Hearts. Chris, you like Kingdom Hearts?
Yep.
Sweet. How many of the Kingdom Hearts games have you played?
1 and 2, and I owned the 1.5 or 2.5 collection, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't get into one of the side games that wasn't actually a typical game. It was like a card game or something, or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So that kind of killed, and I was like, all right, I'll just play the main games.
Yeah, I'm on the verge of getting the 1.5 and 2.5, the PS4 titles. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to get one for me and my wife. But yeah, I've played Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and that's the extent of my playthroughs. I knew about the other games, but I knew about them after the fact, and I didn't know, like, I think around that time frame, I was not, like, even around Kingdom Hearts 2 time frame, I wasn't, like, knee deep in the Kingdom Hearts lore.
Sure.
And I want to say that it was just a lack of understanding of the other games that were coming out, of how they tie in, combined with the somewhat convoluted story. I think people would agree. Going from Kingdom Hearts 1 to 2, it gets a little out there. Yeah, teeters on the edge of Kojima-ness at points, but not to that degree, thankfully. I like Kingdom Hearts. I like it primarily for the gameplay. I do like the story between Riku and Sora and Kairi. I mean, I like the trifecta of Riku, Sora, and Kairi. But when I play Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, the main takeaways I remember in my 20-something years was the gameplay. I have this fondness for getting into live-action battles and then things falling all over the floor and me having to collect them. Like, that's just a big childish thing that I love to do. So, with all the news surrounding Kingdom Hearts 3, and I mean, Kingdom Hearts 3 was not the only showcase of this E3. There are lots of games coming out that I'm interested in. Another one is Spider-Man that's coming out later this year. I've already got that one pre-ordered. Hell yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, that blew my mind. I guess I just didn't fucking pay attention to the release dates of that game, and I thought that game was not coming out till December of this year. And that may have been like an early release. That may have been like an earlier press release about the game, but apparently it comes out in September, which is next month. So cool. September 7th, I think, is the official release date right now.
For what?
Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I got confused. I was like, wait a minute, are you saying Kingdom Hearts is pushed up?
Sorry. Nope. My tangents are going all over the place. No, just another game that did get announced and had some a lot of buzz around it this E3 was Spider-Man, and that one I dug into. Recently, Easy Allies did a video, or released a video where Brandon Jones got to play the game for about 5 hours, and spoiler free, just kind of shed a lot of light on the game. For those that have never played the game, and for people that actually had to go or actually played the E3 demo. So that, I mean, I was already planning on getting it. I was already planning on playing it. So, you know, while I got the currency, might as well get it pre-ordered. Something that sucks about this, though, I know I'm not even talking about Kingdom Hearts yet, but I've noticed this today. And Chris, maybe in your experience of pre-orders, maybe you could help me. Okay. So I went to Amazon to go pre-order the game. And in my mind, whenever I go like to a local brick and mortar store, like if I go to GameStop and go pre-order a game, I say, here, I want this entire game. I want this game. Okay, well, entirely after tax, it's going to be like $67.29. Here you go. Here's $67.29. That way I can walk in and pick this game up. When I went to go buy it on Amazon, pre-order, it's, you know, same thing, 60 whatever, but it was like, hey, we're just going to hold your spot. We're not going to take the money from you until the game comes out.
Yeah.
Not a fan of that. So I'm thinking maybe I'm going to retract my pre-order from them and maybe try somewhere else. Maybe GameStop Online does that. Maybe there's somewhere else I can go online and go, hey, here's all of the money. I just want the code when it comes out.
It's been so long since I pre-ordered something from GameStop. I don't even know, but I did do it online. I just can't remember when it charged me.
Yeah. This specifically tells you whenever you pre-order it, hey, we're not going to take the money for this. A good example, recently, Infinity War came out, digital release, and I had that pre-ordered since May. And yeah, it's the 31st at like 1:06 in the morning. My phone went off. Hey, your account's been charged 19 something from Amazon for whatever. So yeah, they typically don't take pre-order money until it comes out, which yeah, I get it. But if I'm in my mind, unless I am just hardcore fervently wanting something, if I'm pre-ordering something in my mind, I want to just pay for it now and be done with it. Yeah. You know, I'll pick it up. And it's just, here you go. You know, where's your receipt? Here you go.
I mean, on the flip side, it's good when things change.
True.
Like I had, I had something pre-ordered. I want to say, it was basically what it was I had pre-ordered it for PS4, but it became available for Xbox One. They announced it later. So like, okay, I'll cancel my pre-order and switch it to Xbox One. I mean, I have the Final Fantasy VII remake. I've had it, pre-ordered since August of 2016. So, you know, I'm kind of glad I haven't been charged for that yet, but my pre-order is there.
Yeah. I mean, I know it'd probably be an extra hassle, but I imagine you could probably get a refund or something.
Yeah, it's really easy to get a refund through them.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm going to find another avenue to get it. Either way, I'd like that game. I'd like that game to just have it right out. I just want to get it when it comes out. Get a little pre-download. You know, get all that shit done. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Yep.
I'm putting a lot of money in Sony's basket recently. I mean, with a fucking hit like Persona 5, and then we got God of War. Like, Sony pretty much just has to show me they've got a concept for a really good game, and I'm like, all right, I'm down for that. I'll try that out. Yeah. I have never played a single Spider-Man ever. Not even like the closest I've come to is picking Spider-Man in a Marvel vs. Capcom or something. So, and it's not anything at all against Spider-Man games. It's just that's not been something that's come across my way in a manner where I could just play it freely. This looks awesome. It looks fun as hell. And a lot of people that I'm reading that and watching that are saying, you know, hey, I played this famous PlayStation 2 Spider-Man that was great, and or I played this awesome PlayStation 1 Spider-Man game that was really great, and this has that spirit of just web swing all over the city and have a good time. So sure thing, Sony. I'll check it out. All that aside, I'm probably gonna pre-order, if not just buy when it comes out, Kingdom Hearts 3 as well. Yeah. But it was just Kingdom Hearts 3 was another of many games this year that just got a lot of limelight, and just seeing the gameplay, seeing the graphics. I mean, come on, man, just seeing Toy Story in general and seeing how well they're treating just the Toy Story Island. I didn't even need to see, you know, Monsters Inc. Island or all or these other or Planet or whatever. That was good enough for me to be interested enough to go, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, if this is a continuation of the story, which again, I'm hearing from a lot of people, this is supposed to be the wrap up, which I kind of need to, I really want to see that from like, I want to see that actually from Sony's side or Square's side or somebody official to go like, yeah, this is the culmination of everything. As in, this is wrapping up the story. Mm-hmm. But I'm hearing a lot of people say that this is supposed to be where it goes. This is supposed to be the end of the road. And it made me want to go back and play Kingdom Hearts, not only to get the story right, well, mainly to get the story right, but also because the gameplay was pretty fun. Mm-hmm. I remember the combat being good for what it was, and I remember the fun of just the childish nature in me of just killing an enemy and shit flying all over the place and going to run around and collecting it. I'm a sucker for that. Well, the hesitation for me to go play the games again was the story, because I, like apparently hundreds of thousands of people in the US, maybe even across the world, had the story problem of Kingdom Hearts, which was you go through Kingdom Hearts 1, it's fairly lighthearted in story, fairly easy to follow till about 2/3 of the way through, and then once more Shadows and Heartless and all, it kind of starts to go a little bit crazy-ish, mm-hmm. but not too bad. You could still kind of wrap up the story at the end. You kind of get the idea where things are going, but it alludes to a sequel coming with a more fleshed out, with more story. It's supposed to, like, all these little shadows you're seeing all over the place are supposed to get light put upon them. So fast forward a year or two, you get Kingdom Hearts 2, and it just starts off with you playing with these 3 random people. And you're like, what are these people? And you see all these cloaked figures, and it just, I don't know, it just seemed very convoluted. Well, apparently there was a game released between those two that we didn't get that apparently was supposed to bridge the gap. And if you didn't play that game, you were pretty much lost. Mm-hmm. I remembered some of the story from Kingdom Hearts 1, buddy. I didn't remember damn near anything about Kingdom Hearts 2, and I went all the way. I went all the way through that game, and again, that's partially me. I know I say this a lot on this podcast, and it is partially my memory just being just shit, and I'm old, but I remember that story having too many points where, yeah, I'm not really understanding what's going on. I kind of just want to fast forward through this dialogue and get back to the gameplay. Mm-hmm. You know, let me get back to another Disney world and have a new Disney costume and go fight things. You know, let me get back to the Coliseum and try their challenges and whatnot. So I had to mentally, this sounds so fucking first world problem, I know, but I had to mentally prepare myself to go back into playing these games. Mm-hmm. And I had the mindset to, I try to do some research to figure out how I was going to do this. I know for a fact that even with all the time we have between right now, this recording and Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out, I really have no excuse as far as time goes. I can go back and play all of those Kingdom Hearts games and get all the story if I wanted to. But I try to do some research and find out, like, what are the core games that I need to play? Like, what are the main things that are going to get me through the gigantic portion of the story? And I think it was basically those 3 from what I could gather. I could be wrong. I know there's Kingdom Hearts fans right now that are listening to this and going, oh no, you're fucking crazy. You got to play 1, the middle one, 2, and this one. And I don't know. Either way, I had settled on playing at least those 3. So it was Kingdom Hearts 1. It was the middle one, which I think was the Chain of Memories. And then and then Kingdom Hearts 2. And that was going to be where I was going to stop, because apparently at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, that's where the beginning of 3 picks up. So I was like, all right, well, in my mind, I'm good. Before I did this, one day, randomly, I was looking up Kingdom Hearts videos on basically plot summary. I found a few. There's a couple YouTube channels that I subscribe to that do plot summaries and just like series analysis and series summaries and all that. And a couple of those I watched and they were okay, but I wanted specifics. Like, I wanted to find somebody who had done like a lengthy video and said, look, I'm going to give you the entirety of every single Kingdom Hearts game all wrapped up into one video. I found a couple of them. And thankfully, I say thankfully because I love content. I'm all about watching it. YouTube is my TV. So I found a few YouTube videos that were like, you know, around an hour and a half long. Okay, cool. Apparently there's a lot of shit in Kingdom Hearts, and that's good. You know, give it all to me. I started watching one, and I made it probably about 20 minutes into the video, and I started losing the thread. And that was so disheartening for me because the video was very good. It was very detailed. They were not leaving one stone unturned. They were taking their time and giving you all the information. They were giving you all the names. They were doing what their video said they were going to do. They were giving a in-depth analysis. And man, I was following it and doing my best to stick with it. And it started getting a little bit loose, and I started forgetting names, and more shit kept getting added, and it was getting a little more loose. And I just, all right, I'll just have to come back to this video another day. It's sad that a fucking Disney Squaresoft, game about fucking Donald and Goofy and Mickey and some kids has me, a 36-year-old man, going, I don't get it. I'm losing it. And because I was losing it. I legitimately was. So I had found a couple other videos and bookmarked them and kept them to the side. One of which was a 20-minute, it's the entire story of Kingdom Hearts in under 20 minutes. I'm shouting this video out specifically. It's from a YouTube personality named Frustrated Jacob. So if anybody out there if what I'm about to tell you interests you and you want to check it out, just go to YouTube, search the entire story of Kingdom Hearts in under 20 minutes. And I said, okay, the length of the video is not what's throwing me away from any of these. But if this guy is telling me he can tell me all of Kingdom Hearts in 20 minutes, let's see. And this was the most concise, most accurate, gave me every single thing I needed to know and understand from the beginning of the Kingdom Hearts story until, and folks, that ends my video, and this is exactly where Kingdom Hearts 3 picks up at. And I've watched that video twice just to make sure I got all the details. I got it the first time. I didn't have to. I did not have to. The first video round of 20, and it's 20 minutes and 48 seconds. I think he spends exactly 20 minutes explaining the story of Kingdom Hearts. And I got it all. A lot of loose ends came together. A lot of shit that I vaguely remember from Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 got answered. Just stuff got clarified. I feel like I have a fairly good grasp of if I was to just pick up Kingdom Hearts 3 right now. So I said, okay, so I got the story part out of the way. Now, when I'm playing this damn game, I don't have to really concern myself of understanding everything. I'll be able to pick up on the story and I can just play the game. And I did. I was having a pretty good time. I made it all the way through. I think Monstro was the last area. I think I had just started Pan's Hook's ship.
Okay.
And I think just the combination of already watching the video and really understanding all of the story, I started to kind of fade off of it. It's not a bad game. It's nothing like that. It's just, I really can't explain it, Chris. It may be because I'm too anxious to play Kingdom Hearts 3 now. I don't know. I was kind of blowing through the game. I could put it on expert. I should have, or whatever the harder difficulty is. But I don't know. I just kind of quietly put it down. So I'm just kind of done with that for now. It was definitely not the same as stopping Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy VIII was, I just don't give a shit. Like you guys did not do good with this. Yeah. Kingdom Hearts was like, I'm kind of done with this for now. I may go back and finish what's left. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm closer to 2/3 of the game. I'm halfway if I'm counting getting everything, like finishing all the Colosseum, finding all of Pooh's pages and getting all the book unlocked and all that. But if I'm just going through the game, I'm like 2/3 of the way through. Sure. I'm debating about going through and finishing it all the way. If not, I would like to go through Kingdom Hearts 2 because I think I had more fun in 2. I think 2, Sora had more abilities and there was like an upgrade chain or a skill chain that I liked better. I don't remember. But for right now, I've put it down, and the big takeaway for me is that at least with the video, I now know I've got a stronger grip on the story of Kingdom Hearts. And that's very important for me. I think this is very important for anybody that follows Kingdom Hearts, period. If you are a hardcore Kingdom Hearts fanatic and you just have played everything and you completely get all the lore behind Kingdom Hearts, that's good for you. But I know I am not alone when I say that I am one of the ones. There are many of us out there that played Kingdom Hearts 1 and then played Kingdom Hearts 2 and went, yeah, I kind of got it, but this shit's getting wild, man. There's a lot of weird, crazy shit going on. I don't really know. But thankfully I've got it now. And I think if you're one of those people that fits in that category of, yeah, that story is kind of, wow, check that video out. Maybe it'll shed some light on the story for you. Let's see. So for my week, movies, I've watched, I think I watched only one. I haven't finished the other one. Now I forget which one. I did watch Wet Hot American Summer. It's a video I've heard a lot about. It's a 2011 movie. It's got a lot of, wacky humor in it. And I enjoyed it. It's a one-time watch for me though. This was, apparently like a cult hit with a lot of people. It was okay. Well, no, it was funny. It had a lot of funny moments in it, but it wasn't one that I'm going to go back to repeatedly. Mm-hmm. Infinity War came out on digital release, so of course I've already watched through that once again. Still love it. I was kind of upset that this is. I don't know if so. Infinity War has came out. Mm-hmm. And the Blu-ray DVD release comes out the 14th of this month. I don't know if that Blu-ray DVD release has extras in it, but that's something that I'm looking for because most of these Marvel movies have like an extended release that has 10 minutes of extra footage, 40 minutes of extra footage, whatever. And I don't care what it is. I would love to see anything that got cut out of this movie. Mm-hmm. I didn't see any extra in this movie, so meh. I mean, I still got it, so I mean, it's fine. But I also found out the hard way because this is, even though I've had a Amazon Prime account for like three or 4 years now, this is the first time that I've ever utilized the Amazon Prime Video function of it. Mm-hmm. And I did some research trying to find out if I could download the videos that I buy, and across the board I kept seeing, yes, you can. If you own it, you can download it. But apparently there's caveats to that. You can only download an Amazon Prime Video if it is a video that has the download function. For some reason, not all Amazon Prime videos have that function. So it's a crapshoot. The video that you like may or may not have that function. And two, this is the big one. If you download, and this pisses me off so much. When I say fucking download, I mean, can I pull up any device that I have, download it to the storage device on that, and have it, period, to use? Unfortunately, with Amazon Prime, you can only download it on a device that supports the download feature. And if the video itself is allowed to be downloaded, and even when you download it, you can only watch it through the Amazon Prime app. Well, I'm not complaining. I love Amazon Prime. And this is like, for me, video is like a what the fuck ever. If I have it, I have it. If I don't, I don't. Free 2-day shipping for me all the way. But yeah, that's kind of a shitty way of, you can download. Yeah. But it's not, you can't. When I want to download something, I want to have it, own it physically in digital format on whatever I choose, and then that's it. If I want to make 50,000 copies of it on my hard drive, I can do that. But that's not the way. Anyway, all that aside, I did watch Infinity War again. I can say after having watched that movie twice in the theater, and now watching it even on my fucking phone, that movie's still so good. It still holds up. It still had a lot of points that got me. And it is one of those many movies in my personal library that I can and will watch multiple times. I love it. Such a good movie. And let's see, Chris, this is August now. August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Oh, yeah. We only got some. Ooh. Yes. I'm trying my best not to think about it, but we are getting closer and closer. We are months away from the second one coming out. So, hot damn. I also watched, this is going to blow some people's minds, I imagine, but I did watch Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. I've heard 50-50 on this one. And I've heard from a lot of, I'd say, prominent opinions of movie watchers that I trust, that this movie was actually pretty funny, that it actually was decent at the most. I have seen Jumanji, the original one, once in my life, probably when I was in my, teenage years, young teenage years. But Jumanji, even with the grandeur that Robin Williams brings to any table he plays, I don't remember anything about this movie. I don't remember much about it. I don't remember anything about the movie. I remember Robin Williams being in a caveman looking face, and that's it. So I don't have any ties to this movie of like, oh man, this is not the movie that it was.
Sure.
The idea that they kind of staged this around a video game made me go, I'll be the judge of how you did that. Which they did decent enough. The one cringe moment that I had at the very beginning of the movie that made me go, oh god, this is going to be bad. This is going to be so bad, was one of the characters is introduced. He is playing, I want to say he was playing Street Fighter 4 or Street Fighter 5. Might have been Street Fighter 4. And, oh boy, he was like calling out these moves that he was doing. Like, he had the controller in his hand, and he was doing those weird, like, random clickety-clacky, just throwing fingers all over the controller. You know how they do, Chris. That thing where, like, look, I'm playing a video game, right? And you're like, nobody does that. I don't know. I can think of a handful of games where I've got to do this, too. But he was doing that, and he was like, I don't remember the exact quotes, but he was like, dodge left. Dodge right. Oh, yeah. Suplex. Counter. Backbreaker. Oh, yeah. I'm the man. I was like, oh, God. No, this is a bro gamer. But it wasn't a bro gamer. They were trying to portray him as like this lanky, actual nerd kid. And I was like, I did that when I don't even know if I ever did that. But who the fuck does that? Nobody does that. It was, they actually use that later in the movie again, and it's kind of cool, I guess. But no, that first part made me go, I've been lied to. This movie's gonna be garbage. I give it like a 6 or a 7 out of 10, man. It was actually pretty funny. It had some pretty humorous parts in it. It's a one-time watch for me. I'll tell you that right now. I didn't walk away from it being totally upset. And again, I have no ties to the original Jumanji, so I can't nitpick and say what it got wrong or got right. Treating it as a movie as its own, the fact that it's out, I didn't go spend $20 in a theater to watch it with me and my wife. It was pretty good, pretty funny, had some moments. I think that's really it for the movies. I am watching one more. I'm watching a movie called Gemini. It's supposed to be like a murder mystery. Fucking great cinematography, I'll tell you that now. But I haven't finished it, so I can't give a thing on it. Video games. So right off the bat, I think actually the night of or the next day after last recording, Chris, I've been working on one game and one game only.
Yeah.
I've been working on Wild Arms 2. So I remember going through this diatribe last episode about there's all these games in my library that I'd like to go play, and I've never got around to. One of them was Wild Arms 2. Chris, what's your story on Wild Arms? Have you played any of them at all?
I own 1 and 4, I believe. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I ever started 4 or not, but I have not beat the first one, which is probably why I didn't touch 4. But it's one of those games where I played it, I was enjoying it while I was playing it. No clue why I stopped. That was, years ago, and who knows where my attention went.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was kind of a concern of mine too, was specifically the sequel nature of the game. Like, there are 4, I think technically there are 5 games. I think there's like 4, but there's one that's only Japan, something like that. But there's sequels to this game. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to know, like, okay, do I need to go back again and play Wild Arms 1? Which I'll do, no problem. But I really like to play something new, new. And apparently the Wild Arms series are kind of like Final Fantasy. I'm actually discovering more and more RPG series that are like this. This was always something that I only attributed to Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior, where it's like No, they all have their own story, but they carry things over that are the same. There will always be a Cid in a Final Fantasy. I say that loosely. There's always Chocobos. There's always Moogles. There's always Phoenix Downs, etc. Apparently, Wild Arms is just like that. Another series that's just like that. Like, no, Wild Arms has its own stories. There are a lot of elements that carry over, but you don't have to have played any of them to know of the previous to play the current one. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay. I started playing Wild Arms 2, and I should have took a look at the timer to see at least hours and whatnot. I'm probably about 5 or 6, I want to say, dungeons in. I don't know how to say it any better. But I'm fairly into the game. This game is split up into 2 discs, and it's on the PlayStation 1. The graphics, from what I remember, there's a little bit of an upgrade from the first one. The monster designs still have a weird, like, that's one thing I do remember about Wild Arms 1. The monster designs, even the boss designs, are a little weird. Like, you don't fight a griffin and a dragon and, a giant rabbit with a knife. You fight these weird mutant looking things, and that kind of carries over into Wild Arms 2. If you care about that, it doesn't really bother me. I just remember the later half or later third of Wild Arms, mm-hmm. just all the monsters and all the bosses being like really weird, very hard to describe. But anyway, so Wild Arms 2 starts off roughly the same way Wild Arms 1 does, and you gotta forgive me, folks, I'm pulling all of my Wild Arms 1 memory. Well, I'm pulling it all from memory, so. And this was again another game I played in high school, so we're approaching 2 decades ago since I played Wild Arms 1. Starts off roughly the same way, though. There is a anime style intro, and the gameplay itself starts off with 3 separate characters, and they all have their own individual story of why they are where they are and what they're doing, and for whatever reason, it's explained after their intros, those 3 people are thrust together into the main arc of a story. They all have, I'd say their little intro stories are not that long. They're about 10 minutes each, roughly. And another carryover from Wild Arms 1 is all 3 of the characters have their own unique ability. Mm-hmm. One thing that I do remember from Wild Arms 1 is that I don't believe they all could run. I think there was one character and his ability was that he could run, and the other 2 had their own. In this one, all 3 of them can run. Also, all 3 of them can run over in the overworld as well. So no matter what character you have, you have at least 3 people in your party at any given time, but you select the person who you want in the front. But it's not like there's 2 people following you. It's who do you want to control, because you want to use that person's special ability. And it doesn't matter who you have, who you're playing as. In the dungeon or the town or the overworld, you press and hold a button and you can sprint. So that's nice. There is a feature in here called an encounter cancel feature, something I like. This is something that other RPGs have done as well, where if I'm in an area and I'm level 1 and I level up to level 2, level 3, level 4, by the time I get to level 7, I shouldn't have to fight anybody. Mm-hmm. Like, they should be scared of me. Yeah. And some games have done that where, like, you just flat out won't have encounters, or you'll have encounters and they'll run away, or you'll have encounters and you're always on the advantage, whatever. This one, as you're going through the map or the overworld or the dungeon, wherever, it will show you an exclamation point over your head. And if you press the circle button, the cancel button, you won't engage the battle. It just no battle happens. Okay. That's pretty nice. That's if you choose,
Yeah.
Let's see. An NPC made a statement, encounter cancel doesn't work when fighting terrorists. I thought that was pretty funny. Because apparently that's part of the story arc later in the game, is there are terrorists that are doing things. I thought it was pretty funny. So this was there's another feature of the game that I forget who I was watching a couple reviews and reading a couple reviews about the game. And some people have complained about the way the overworld map and locations are done. And I could kind of agree where I see where people wouldn't like it, but I actually kind of enjoy it. Not to be a contrarian, I actually read this before I play the game, went, oh man, that sounds kind of garbage, but I kind of like it. So when you're in the overworld map for the first time, imagine you could go anywhere, but you don't know where anything is. You can't, that's usually how it goes. Like imagine the first time in Final Fantasy VII you left Midgar. Unless an NPC told you what town to go to, you don't know where to go, which somebody does, and you have a destination when you leave Midgar. You could travel around the map if you weren't told, like, and I'm totally making this up, but if somebody said, hey, when you leave Midgar, if you go east, you're going to run into this town, that's where you should go. If nobody told you that, you still could leave Midgar and wander around until you found a town, because you would go, hey, there's a town, and you go into the town.
Yeah.
In Wild Arms 2, you can't do that. Because when you get in the overworld map, aside from the forests, aside from the water, aside from the mountains and the typical terrain of the world, things are not labeled and things are not visible. So you wander around and you're not going to find a town. You're not going to find a cave, a dungeon, a castle, anything. The way that you find things is you press the square button and your character emits like a sonar. And if you're in the vicinity of somewhere important, a town, a cave, a castle, whatever, it shows up. So I kind of like the hunting nature of this for a couple reasons. One, it sort of forces you to talk to everybody in town, which if you're not an RPG aficionado, you don't know that you should do that. And this shows you that you need to be talking to people, because there will be a destination to go to, and some guy on the first floor of the inn will go, oh yeah, I've heard about this town. And in bold yellow letters, it'll go, it's east of this town. So you know that, okay, once I leave this town, if I go east and start hitting my radar, I can find this place. It's also cool because this is how you find secret areas of the game, which I have not found yet, but I just have it in my head that this is how it's going to be done. Like, you're not going to find the cave that has the chest with the ultimate weapon, because you can't see a cave. But if you talk to somebody, they're going to give you a hint like, yeah, I've heard about this legendary weapon in this cave northeast of this town. And then you go find it. So I kind of like the finding nature of it. What I don't like about it is that if I was to just go out into the area before getting these cues, you cannot get these places open basically until either the story prompts you to, or an NPC tells you about the area. I'll get into that one in a minute. So, I mean, it does have its up and downs, but I thought it was a very interesting way of, it sets me in the mind of, I'm in this world that I don't know. So my characters may know that if I go east from the castle, I'm going to find this tower, but I don't know that. I'll have to look around and find it. The battle system, it does have an auto battle function, which I do like. You have the ability to switch it on and off in the battle. At a minimum, you have to at least press the attack button if you're on auto battle. But that's good, because that means you can select to have the auto battle off, and then you control everything manually. Their basic commands or auto attack styles you can select per character. It's very minimalistic, but you can set everybody to auto attack, and then boom, the match is fought for you. The controller remapping, icon and window had mild customization. You can remap this entire controller the way you want to, and I love that. Like, any way you want these menu buttons, like, just any way at all, and that's always a plus. I always give pluses to any game that does that. We're gonna have an episode one day about that as a whole. Trust me. Here's another fun thing for this game. It uses a currency which they call Gimel coins. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. As a means of continuing if you die in battle. So in the world, or from battles, or from quests or whatever, you can find or gain these Gimel coins, and they act as continues. But they act as continues for the battle itself. So if you die in battle, you start the battle over from the beginning of the battle. You don't have to go back to a save point. You don't go back to a checkpoint. If you die in a boss battle, you spend a Gimel coin and you start the boss battle from the beginning. I like that. Pretty nice.
Yeah.
Little story weirdness here. So my character found a cat that was on a roof that was running. Like it was some childhood friends of his, whatever. They're like, "Hey, can you help get my cat?" So I went and did this little side mission. I got their cat. And one of the boys was like, "Here, let me give you a memento that my dead mother gave to me." And I was like, "What?" Okay. I don't think she was dead. Either way, it was a memento from his mother. And I was like, and then he goes, "It's okay. It's okay. I've got 2 of them. You can have one." I'm like, "Wait a minute. What the?" So number one, I climbed a roof and grabbed a cat for you, and you're giving me a gift from your mother. But it's okay also because you have 2 of these. What? Okay. All right, game. This is I am the destined hero shit right here. Mm-hmm. So I got promoted and assigned to I did a job, and then I got promoted and got assigned to a tougher job, and I had to go tell my in-game girlfriend about it, and she was kind of upset or whatever because, hey, I've got to go off on a mission. And my character was sitting up in the room alone, and he was like, "Yeah, we have fun together, but we argue just as much. What kind of relationship do we have anyway?" I was like, wow. So you're establishing these characters, game, and you're explaining to me that this guy and this girl are together, and this guy's like, "Yeah, we have fun, but we also argue. What are we doing here?" What is our relationship anyway? I'm like, damn, is he going to break up with this girl? Like, what? Are you setting up for him leaving or her leaving? This is crazy. Another little fun thing about the battle mechanics is that whenever you pull off an RNG, Miracle of God, and you do a critical attack, the camera does like a triple take. I thought that's pretty cool. Unless I cannot find out how to do it, unless I'm just dumb, you cannot save on the overworld map, which is very odd. Now, there are many places to save at. Don't misunderstand. It's easy to save, but I mean, come on. That's like a RPG staple in my mind. Yeah. Just if you're out in the world, just save. You don't need a save point to do that. But, that's their choice. Whatever. Anybody ever wondered this? I think this may be only for this game. I'd have to look up some lore for Wild Arms 1, but ARMS actually stands for, in ARMS 2, Agile Remote Mission Squad. I didn't expect it to have an acronym, expect it to be an acronym, but it is, so whatever. So as the story began to progress, and I'm definitely not gonna leave. I'm trying my best to be a spoiler free. Most of this shit I'm talking about happens in like the first 5-10 minutes of the actual part of the game, and I think this next few sentences are actually where I stop the spoilers period. But the story starts to push into like the bigger arc, and it starts off with no one has ever pulled the sword from this stone in the 100 years that it's been here. And I was like, here we go. This is that tried and true shit that everybody hears about. Like it's just a cookie cutter story. And here we go. Nobody's ever pulled this sword out. And I was like, yeah. The design of the sword I thought was pretty cool. It's called Argiltham. It has a handle section like inside the blade, which from a practical standpoint, I really like to see how somebody uses it like that, but I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool. it says that the legend that the sword Magus and the disaster itself both just disappeared. So there was somebody who wielded this sword, and the sword, and then there was a disaster in the area, and the sword and the disaster itself and the sword Magus just disappeared. Okay, cool. So they were trying to explain some of the story, and then after, so the your character is supposed to go try to remove the sword. Like, there's like a bunch of people around and everybody's trying to pull it out. And then your main character, whose name is Ashley, by the way, your character goes to pull the sword out. And I was like, here we go. It's going to be like, what? This random guy comes up and pulls the sword out? Oh no. The screen fades into like, credits / story section. Credits are rolling by and they're giving you little pieces of the lore, mainly talking about the sword and the fact that there was a master of the sword who came in and just made the disaster of the world go away. And then as soon as the cutscene was over, it shows your character and all those people like having a party, like it was a promotion for something, and y'all were talking and it was like, man, I thought I was going to pull it out, but I didn't. I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. The game reveals that no, he did not pull the sword out. However, this is where the game picks up. Like, this is where the story starts. It hits shit's going down. So from here on out, story is pretty much going to be spoiler free for me. I do like Ash's outlook. He said, since the sword stays put, there is no need for it, so all is well. That's a good thing. That's a pretty nice way of thinking about it. Somebody was talking to him about why, like, aren't you happy? Aren't you upset that you didn't pull the sword out? And he was like, nah. The sword only activates, basically, if there's a need. If there's no need, then that means the world is okay. So I'm good that nobody's pulling it out. I know I'm bouncing back and forth in these notes. Sorry, folks. I didn't organize these. I just put them down. I just took notes. That's how I'm going to do all of them. Sorry, deal with it. I also noticed that there was a lack of item descriptions. And this is kind of disheartening from a mechanical standpoint, because from either the menu section or I'd actually have to go look when I'm buying the items. They may be in the shops when you're buying the items, but if you're in the menu, the main menu, or if you're in the battle menu in the heat of the moment, I could not find a way to have item description pop up. I think in this game, you need that. I mean, I'd argue any RPG you should have that. That should be like a mainstay.
That's a peeve of mine.
Yeah, I don't know this game, and I'm sure, especially with this being the second game, that if I played the first game, I would know that this item cancels silence. But I don't know. I don't remember the first game, and most of these, I'd say some of these items don't, like, they're not immediate word association. It's not like echo screen or, revivify or whatever. It's a word, and I'm like, well, I have to guess and check these items and find the one that works for what I need. There's also a matter of the quantity. If I have a character that's only down like 60 hit points, I don't want to use the item that's going to heal 500. I want to use the one that takes 50, but I don't know because there's no description. So, just something to think about. Again, I want to say that the shops, whenever you buy an item, I want to say that they give you descriptions. I could be wrong. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess if you're really hard up about it, you can go look at a guide. I just think that's a negative for the game. You should have that. I mean, you should have that. So a hang up point that had me concerned, this was part of, this ties into the whole, a negative aspect of wandering around the world and just using your radar thing to find points. So I was stuck in town for a bit. I didn't know where to go, and no, this is not going to make our list today, but I was stuck and I couldn't figure out where to go. So I said, okay, I probably talked to somebody and fast forward the dialogue too much. Somebody probably told me where to go. There's probably like a town or a tower or something I need to go out in the overworld and just go unlock it, and I'll just move on. Well, I went around the overworld map to all the areas that I could go around to, you know, aside from ones that were blocked off by land or, you know, hey, you can't go past here. I went everywhere and I was just just spamming that radar. Nothing. Didn't find a single place. So, okay, well, apparently I need to go talk to somebody else. So I ran back into town, went and talked to every NPC. I think I talked to one person that may have said somebody different, but I don't have everybody's dialogue memorized, so I don't know. I went back out into the world, and a new area opened up after using the radar. That kind of bugs me. It seems as though some of the triggers in this game for areas being opened up is like you have to talk to somebody specifically and they have to drop the hint or something. Like there is an NPC trigger for you having a new place open up. I get it. I guess in a way it would be kind of cheating if you just went around the overworld map and literally just spammed your radar and just unlocked 20 places. It would kind of take some of the surprise and all that. I get that. But I don't remember if I talked to like I want to say the person that had different dialogue was almost like a random NPC. It wasn't like I could go back and go, okay, let me go talk to this person again because this is the last important person I talked to and maybe they'll say something different. They didn't say anything different. Somebody else did. I just don't know what was different or what, you know, that's a little bit too convoluted for a trigger for me. I don't mind random triggers. I don't even mind talking to the same person twice as a trigger. Yeah. But just having a random NPC dictate me moving on to the next critical dungeon or area, yeah, not a big fan of that. It's only happened once, so maybe that's not a big thing. I was fighting some enemies and some dialogue come up. The enemy screamed, "I hate you." Jesus. I was like, damn, like this is like a Joe Blow fucking enemy. And they're like screaming in all caps, "I hate you." I was like, I don't even know you, man. And when you understand the story of this game, you can also see how that's very like, wow, that's fucking too much. But yeah. This is the last thing I want to say about it as far as where I am in my gameplay so far. So I was in a dungeon and I was doing a puzzle. This is one thing that I remember from Wild Arms is that a lot of the dungeon crawling was puzzle based. It was a plus for me. Like I like that. I like how, you know, it makes me think, you know, this is not new. This is, you know, Tales of Destiny does this. Lots of games do this, but it's not just go around caves and then press a button and move on. You actually have genuine puzzles in here that incorporate 1, 2, or all 3 of your character's abilities, in one way or the other. So I was in a dungeon. I was doing a puzzle and I had got to a point where I couldn't go any further. Or I think I had it was like a push a block puzzle kind of deal, but I think I pushed a block too far, something like that. I could not progress. So I was like, well, okay, I'll just fucking go out the room, or if I have to, I'll go out the fucking dungeon and come back in and start the whole puzzle again. When I came back in, the puzzle had saved itself up to the point where I had fucked up. Nice. So if it was a 10-step puzzle, it saved step 1 through 7 because I did 1 through 7 correctly and just made me only have to do the last 3. And yeah, very nice. That's something I don't think I've ever seen in a game before. And I'm not going to profess that every puzzle here on is going to do that, but this one did. And I haven't been stuck in the other one so far. That was very, very cool. All in all, is it, it's slightly teetering on the edge of, okay, I'm kind of sort of getting bored, but I mean, it's a very light kind of sort of. This is not a Final Fantasy quit. I'm not quitting it yet. I'm probably going to be playing it as soon as I get off this podcast and get it edited. But as far as I'm enjoying it so far. This is a classic from the PlayStation 1 era. I don't mean classic as everybody's played it. I mean, it's a classic game. Back in the 90s, and I'm enjoying it. I'm having a pretty good time with it. The story's decent enough. It's got some humor in it. It's got some good catch-on points to the story, and Yeah, man, because there's lots of other games I keep thinking about going back to. I'm still, that itch for Persona 5 is still there.
Yeah.
And Persona 5, this game is not. Mm-hmm. There aren't many RPGs out there that are. I've been watching two best friends play through Bloodborne again, and that's given me a strong Bloodborne itch. I've been thinking about going back to that too, but until this game like utterly bores me, or I just don't feel like playing it anymore, I'm gonna keep on with it. I'm enjoying it right now. It's not blowing my mind, but I'm having fun with it. And I believe that's it for my week. Chris.
All right.
What about you?
So I'll start off with, my usual Destiny 2 segment. Mm-hmm. I didn't play it this week. Moving on.
Wow.
Yeah, I have so much stuff to do on that game. I should have played it, but I didn't. Let's see, Octopath Traveler. Also didn't touch it.
Wow.
So I'll see your one game for the week, and I also have one
Match
game for a week.
None?
Yeah.
What?
I played one game, No Man's Sky. So
let me ask you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you notice any visitors in your No Man's Sky playthrough anytime this week?
No, but I also have it, I think I still have it disabled, so I won't see other people.
I jumped in. I thought about chatting, but I just watched it for like about 15 minutes. I said, this game is fucking stupid, and I left. No, I didn't. Honestly, I didn't see anything that like grabbed my attention. Mm-hmm. I just watched you play for a little bit and went, okay, move on.
Yeah, it's a sandbox game, and with that comes, a ton of different things to do, which isn't something it originally had. When it was first released and was terrible, there wasn't a whole lot to it. It didn't look good, but a lot of that has changed.
See, I thought it was a little different than that. I thought there was a ton of shit to do in No Man's Sky originally, but there was no point.
I mean,
the end. There was no like really end goals. Like people were just doing shit, but they were like, "Yeah, I don't even know why I'm doing any of this. Sure. It's all meaningless."
Yeah, I mean, there was stuff you could do, but not as much stuff.
Yeah.
Now there are multiple quest lines that you can do. There are side quests. There are repeatable. I won't say repeatable missions, but there are. They're repeatable in the sense that you're going to get the same type of missions over and over from this little guild NPC, and you can get multiple of them. So what I do is I go basically to all the space stations I've been to, talk to NPC, get them all, and then go do what I want out of them. Because okay, kill 20 animals. Okay, I'll get 10 or 5 of those quests, go complete them all at once, turn them in, get a bunch of stuff. It's a good way to build up, and it's a decent way to build up money, but it's a good way to get stuff to sell and some more rare materials, nanites, which are kind of a secondary currency. You primarily get it from scanning stuff and then uploading it as you discover it. Mm-hmm. But there's just so much stuff to do now. I mean, so, like I said, there's 3 main quest lines. So it's like, all right, I'll do this quest line, get up to a point, it's like, oh, you need to go do this. And I'm like, okay, well, while I'm doing that, I can do these side quests, or there's the base building aspect to it. So sure. I'll go, I'm like, all right, I want to work my base, and your base now has NPCs you can get, hire to do stuff. Like, okay, so I need to go through their quest, because each one of them has a side quest associated with them. So I'm like, okay, progress through it. Oh, hey, another NPC. Okay. I think right now I have 4 NPCs at my base, and I just got the quest earlier for the 5th, which I didn't even know was a thing. Mm-hmm. I knew about the 4. Then it's like, oh, hey, a 5th. So I need to go do that. But then, I'm at my base. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to there's farming in the game now. So I'm like, all right, I'll check all my, what do you call them, little growy things, harvest my plants. I'm like, okay, do that, put them in storage, move on. And I'm like, okay, well, I can do this and this and this. It's one of those, it's a sandbox game, so there's tons of stuff to do. And every time you go to do something, it's like, oh, there's 10 other things I could do. I was working on upgrading my ship to be able to go to different solar systems. Because there are some you can't go to until you get certain pieces of equipment. Mm-hmm. So I was doing that. And while I'm looking for these places, I'm stumbling across other things, other different types of planets, other locations, buildings, whatnot. I didn't realize it at first, but my game was actually glitched in a good way. There's an item you use called, it's like drop pod navigation or drop pod location or something like that. Basically lets you put it in this little signal booster and it'll put a spot on your map for a drop pod. Drop pods are one of the ways to increase your inventory. So you can do it at any space station. You can get one per space station automatically, or not automatically, you have to pay for it. The one you find out on the map or on the planet, you just use some resources to unlock, essentially, which is much easier to do. Much cheaper overall. Well, mine was bugged. So normally when you find a drop pod, it uses that, expendable item. Mine wasn't expending it. And I didn't realize this first, so I went through like 15 drop pods and I still had the 2 items in my inventory. I was like, oh. Interesting. So that was really nice. But they've been patching this game at least once per day, if not twice. And it's been great. Aside from it fixed my drop pod bug this morning. So I can't do that anymore. I'm doing it the hard way, which isn't bad. It's a whole lot better than it used to be. Like I mentioned before, that was the main reason I stopped playing. It was just inventory management was hell. But now, I mean, it's still not great in some aspects. Like they have, as part of the base building, of course, you have storage crate things, which first off are way too big. It's like the size of a small house, and it has 5 slots in it, which is nothing. And it limits you to 10 of them, and they're numbered, which is interesting. When you look at that, you're like, why are they numbered? Why not just, let me put down 10 if they're going to limit it to 10?
Yeah.
But the interesting thing I found is if you delete one of the storage things, like I didn't like where I had mine, so I moved it off my freighter and stuff, put it down on my base, and apparently there's an item in it when it was on the freighter, so I thought I'd emptied it out. But then I went to it and it's like, oh hey, the item's still there. I was like, oh, interesting.
Wow. Okay.
So apparently it saves it in the container so you can't accidentally delete your items, which is good. It's really nice. Kind of funny though to bring it, 1,000 light years away and it's like, oh, the item's still there, I guess I was just carrying my back pocket the whole time.
Yeah.
The freighter system still has the most bugs. It's pretty obvious that the base building stuff wasn't intended for a freighter, and the game gets really confused. The base quest line, as far as getting all the blueprints from your little base computer, is also still bugged, and most of the bugs can be fixed by saving and reloading, and that's it. Unless you have one of the like game breaking bugs, which I haven't run into yet, but and I don't expect to at this point. But all the minor bugs can typically be fixed by reloading, which is not an issue at all. It's real quick most of the time. But with the base quest line, there is an issue where it wants you to go to your last base you had, or you used, or you built, rather. That's the best way to put it, is the last one you built, and use the computer there. Well, I don't put a teleporter at every base I have, which I should, but early on I didn't even have the option. So, and this morning I ran into it, and the fix was, I'd go to my base, I'd save, reload while at that base, and be like, oh, hey, you're at the base. Use the computer. I'm like, okay, cool. No problem. So this morning, I'm exploring around. I get to this planet that is mostly water, which are pretty cool. There's so many cool world designs in here. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I get to this world, mostly water. I find an island. I'm like, all right, I want to check some stuff out. But the weather on the planet was rough, so it was very tedious. My hazard protection was going down during all these, heat waves or whatever it was on that planet. So I built a base computer, put up a little, I have little kind of modular room things now. So I put one, so I could walk inside, get out of the weather, let my systems recharge. Cause you can recharge them at any point by using materials. But if you go inside a building or inside cover, a cave or whatever, it'll recharge automatically. So, save some resources.
Yeah.
So I built this little base thing, went in it, chilled. I spent some time in the area gathering some more materials I needed from there. And, I hadn't been underwater yet at that point. So I did that for a few seconds just to see what was there. And then I was ready to leave. I think part of my issue was I didn't have any more fuel for my ship, so I had to farm some while I was there. But, okay, got my stuff. I'm ready to go. And, I deleted the base, which is something you can do. You just take down the buildings and then on your computer say delete, and it's gone. Cool. So I went back to my base, and I'll give it in a second. Yeah. So I deleted the base, went back to my other base, and I was like, all right. Went about my business for a bit, and I was like, oh yeah, my base computer should be ready to give me some more information. So I switched my, tracked quest to the base one. And it's like, all right, talk to your base computer. So I walk over to my base computer. I'm like, it doesn't have the icon. And the little tooltip in the corner that you pretty much always have when you have an active mission tracked, it said, your base is in another system. I'm like, huh. Well, the only one I did was that one that I deleted. So I'm like, okay, I guess I just need to save and reload. So I did that, and it's like, it's still another system. I'm like, okay. So I went to the teleporter, and I teleported, to a different base. It actually let me teleport to that base on the island on the water world.
What?
Which, there's two reasons that's bad. First, I deleted the base. Second, I never built a teleporter on that base. It should have never been a destination.
So how did it do that?
So I appear literally in the circle of dead grass where that building was.
Oh my God.
With nothing around me but my ship. Fortunately, it teleports your ship with you. Anytime you teleport. So that's really good. Otherwise, I would have been stuck on this island in the middle of a water world with nothing,
Wow.
I was like, huh. So I had to hop in my ship, fly out to space, find another teleporter, teleport back, and I'm like, okay. So I guess I can't do this quest until I fix this bug. So I'm hoping it'll be fixed today, or tomorrow, or whenever. I'm almost done with it too. I think I need like 2 more times of getting stuff from it. One of the annoying parts is there's a lot of stuff that's kind of time gated. It's not bad, and there's so much to do in the game that you don't really notice it as much as some games. But like the base computer, once you do all the stuff it wants you to do at that point, and you get the blueprint, you build the blueprint, and it's like, all right, wait an hour and a half, and then we'll give you more information from the base computer. Okay, sure. There's another quest line where you have to talk to this NPC, and he'll want you to get something for him. You get it for him, you come back, and he's like, all right, I'll let you know when I'm ready, for you to do something else for me. And that's another hour and a half timer. The freighter missions, there are 2 types of missions for your freighter. One is basically stuff for you to do, your character to do. The other is stuff for you to send your frigates out to do. So I'm up to 6 frigates now, which is cool. I finally have enough money where I can go out and actually buy these frigates, because you'll go out in space and there will be another freighter, an NPC freighter, and a bunch of frigates around it. It's support frigates. And some will have icons, and when you get close, someone will come over your radio going, "Hey, you want another frigate? Come check me out." And you can take a look and see what their stats are and choose to buy it or not. The ones I'm seeing right now run roughly 2 million units, which is a decent chunk, but at this point, not bad for me. I think I'm currently up to like 28 million credits, not units. And they're interchangeable. Nanites are the other one. So, and the game confuses me sometimes with the way it words things. I'm like, what'd I just get? But the frigate missions, you can send out up to 5 frigates on a mission, assuming you have the fuel for it, which is very annoying right now for me in the game. You send them out, and they range from, I think the shortest one I've had was 52 minutes. The longest one I've had is nearly 5 hours.
These are in real life time?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, but you don't do anything with them. You send them out, and then you check them when they come back.
Gotcha.
So I'll send those out, and then you go play the game. I actually, sometimes in the morning, I'll load up the game, send my frigates out, and turn it off, and then go to work,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So it's not bad. Just one of those things that, I don't know. I don't really have an issue with the frigates. It's really the quests being time-gated that are annoying. Because if I'm working on the quest, I want to work on the quests. Another interesting bug I ran into, last night or this morning. I can't remember if it started last night or if it started and was fixed this morning. But I have all my storage containers. Well, and they have 5 slots in them, 2 on the top row and 3 on the second row. Don't know why that's the pattern. Don't care. But the second slot on the top row and the second slot on the bottom row, I couldn't take items out of either of those slots on any of my containers. I could put stuff in. So I'm sitting there trying to craft stuff that I need ingredients from my container, and I can't take them out. It was literally flashing up with a little pop-up you get when you're repairing a part on a ship, and doing nothing afterwards. So that was really bad. And that was probably the most frustrating bug I've run into so far, because I needed those. You can't destroy it and get them back. You destroy the items to stay in there until you rebuild it.
Right.
And all 10 of my storage containers were doing this.
Jeez.
So I was like, okay. But fortunately, there was another patch this morning. I don't know if it was coincidence or if they actually fixed in that patch, because that patch didn't even have notes. Let me double check. See if they actually put release notes for today's patch. It was so small, I'm sure it was something very minor.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've released 5 patches so far, and actually they all hit the consoles today. So now consoles are officially caught up to PC. Because it was the way they were doing the patches for the game, and the way they still are as far as I know. On Steam, they have a experimental build you can opt into, but that's where they're doing all the patching, patch testing, I should say. Mm-hmm. And then they roll it out to Steam, and then a day or so later, roll it out to PS4. Actually, I don't think PS4 got any. It's kind of slightly staggered, but I think it's just because of consoles and how they work, with their timings. Yeah. But then they rolled out to PS4 and Xbox One the next day or that night, if it released in the morning. Probably a 12-hour window or so, just to make sure that PC users don't go crazy.
Yeah.
Which is acceptable. That makes sense to me. Because it's a lot easier to patch something through Steam than it is through Sony or Xbox. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's so much to do in the game. I finally got a decent ship. I've had a decent multi-tool for a bit. I I think the next big thing for me is I'm still saving up for a really good ship. The one I got is kind of an in-between to hold me over. Has more space than the starting one. I technically have like 5 ships, but I just got some of them because I thought they'd be okay and then ended up not liking them. But one of the downsides is you can't sell ships. You can trade them in when you go to buy a new one. You can get credit for it, but otherwise you can't sell it, which the trading in doesn't help when, a couple of these ships I found. They were broken down on a planet, and I found a distress beacon. It was next to the distress beacon. Once I repair it, I'm good. I can take it and I don't even have to repair it. But I did that so I could trade them in, and I just haven't had the opportunity to trade them in yet. Not that they're worth a lot, because I think you get like somewhere between a quarter to half of their value, which I think it's a quarter is most of what it is, which isn't great. Because if I have a 2 million credit ship and I only get 500,000 for it, I feel a little ripped off.
Yeah, a little.
So, but if it's free, it's free. So I'm not going to complain too much about that one. But I'm still looking for a really good ship because there are different rankings for pretty much everything for ships, multi-tools, freighters that go from C to S, CBAS. My ship I have now is A. I think my multi-tool is A as well, but it's really close to being an S. It's like top tier A. My freighter is C class. Frigates also have a rating, but the frigates, they actually level up the more you use them on the missions. So I have one frigate. The first one I got is now A, started at C. It's up to A. And I had 2 that just went to B last night or this morning. So that's really cool. And the higher the rating, the more useful they are in stuff. Every time you send them out, I won't say every time, but every few times you send them out, they'll kind of level up and their stats will improve. Because the way the frigate system is they have, I want to say 4 different categories: exploration, commerce, combat, and something else. And for some of them, like I just bought them because they were there and I needed more. But they had 0 for like 2 stats, which isn't a big deal. I just don't send them out for that kind of mission,
Yeah.
I don't have any that are at 0 anymore. I think the lowest something has in a spot is either 2 or 5, which isn't great, but it's better than 0,
Right.
So I like that aspect of it. But yes, I'm looking, and I really need more money, before I get an S-class ship. The really good ones are going to cost like 150 million. I think my next upgrade that I'd really want would probably run me about 20-25. So I can technically afford it now if I find one I like. Either a low tier S or high tier A. But once you get into a lot of storage on a ship, it gets super expensive. Like there are C-class ships I'm seeing that are like 14 million because they have 40 slots, which is cool and all, but they're garbage for stats. The weapons suck, the speed sucks, everything sucks about it except for the storage. But I'm trying to hold out now that I've got my current ship, which is the focus on my current ship is damage output, so I can fend off pirates and stuff. But I might want to, it depends what I find. If I find a cool exotic ship, I'll probably get it regardless of what type it is. But I'd like to have a fighter it's just easier to control and more damage output. Because probably the area I'm weakest in the game and I like the least is the space combat, which isn't a huge part of the game anyway. So it's not like it's a game break or anything for me. But just controlling the ship in space feels absolutely garbage. I've heard of people using an Xbox controller on PC for when you're in space only, and using keyboard for literally everything else. Supposedly it feels better. I haven't tried that yet. Maybe I will, but right now I kind of just try to avoid combat, which isn't super easy to do sometimes. But when you're getting attacked by pirates, they actually hail you first, and you can ignore the hail and they just come anyway. But if you answer, they'll be like, give us whatever.
Yeah.
And you have 4 options. One is just reject whatever they're saying flat out. The second is bribe. So you give them a little bit of money. The third is you pay their demand. So say they're wanting 400,000 credits as the demand. The bribe will be like 100,000, So not too bad. The bribe doesn't always work, as I came to find out earlier. I tried bribing one and it was like, that's not acceptable. Here we come, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I had to fight them off anyway. The second one, I bribed as well because I didn't want to pay 400,000. I was okay with the 100,000. But they're like, all right, we'll take this for now, but we'll be back. They haven't been back yet, but at least they didn't attack me. Because when you get attacked, it disables your fastest form of travel. So you can't get away from them. You basically have to fight them or fly in a straight line for like 10 minutes to get rid of them, which really sucks. But the fourth option on your communication thing is to call the defense forces to help you in combat, which you can only do if you have a particular item, defense chit. I've used it a couple times. First time was just to see what it did. The second time I was either already hurt or I don't remember why the second time. But it summons some ships and they help you fight. They're not the most useful things, but they also draw fire if there's more than one enemy ship, more than pirate. They'll take some of the shots from those until you shoot at them. They typically focus on other things that are shooting at them. It's rough sometimes. Between controls and the different types of weapons, it's okay. Space combat is probably my least favorite part, which kind of sucks in a game. That's all about space exploration and stuff, but most of my time is spent on planets, not out in space. There are resources in space you get from asteroids and stuff, but not really important ones. The most important ones are always on planets. So my space is typically going from the station to a teleporter or from a teleporter to a space station or from a planet to a space station to use the teleporter so I can go away faster or go into space. And as soon as I'm able on the menu to warp to another system, I spend very little time in space unless it forces me to.
That was kind of going to be part of the first question I was going to ask you was what. So I remember you saying toward the beginning of this that you were working on 3 main stories. Of course, without spoiling anything, what are these types of main stories? Because these are what people are going to go for. This is really one thing that I'm interested in. Like, okay, so the game has a point now, apparently 3 points. What are these points?
So the first story mission is one I think has been in there from the start, or not from the start, but from one of the first or older updates. And it's the Atlas mission line, where you find out more about Atlas. I haven't progressed that one very much. I think I've only done like 2 objectives. It's kind of the one I've done the least of. The second one is so the second one is the one I was talking about with it's the Anomaly quest line, which it's not a super detailed quest line. It's not a super full story quest line. It's kind of just something to do that's always there. There are 2 NPCs in this little mini space station type thing. And one of the NPCs you can turn into in your milestones too and get rewards for. So as you may reach these milestones in the game, which are things like anywhere from, walks X distance to, earn milestones, talk to this many aliens, or this many life forms, milestone. Most of these I have capped out now. There's one that's actually bugged that I don't have yet. There's one for killing so many of the robot NPC things. But basically, as you hit these milestones, you can go back and she'll give you some rewards. The other NPC there is the one I was talking about that's a little time gated, that asks you to collect data for them. And they have a interesting little story to them, but it's not as detailed as the other quest lines are.
Okay.
It's more just something to do, here and there, periodically. From what I've seen so far, I haven't finished any of these. Well, I think I technically finished the third one, or I'm close to finishing the third one. And the third one has to do with travelers, which is what your character is. Because there are, 3 main races, in the game. And the traveler is, I don't know. The traveler is either, I think the traveler is technically considered like a 4th race, but with you can design your character now. There's a thing on any space station you can go to and change how your character looks. You can look like any of the races.
Do you play first person or third person?
So I play third person in the ship, first person on my character.
Gotcha.
I played a little bit of third person on the character, and I'm not a huge fan. I much prefer the first person. But the ship, I like being able to see more around me in the ship, so it's better for that. I don't know if I'd enjoy flying more in first person as far as controls go. But I don't know. I don't know if it'd balance out, even if it felt better, if I'd be okay with losing the field of vision. But yeah, so the third storyline is the traveler one, where you're basically trying to meet up with this other traveler, and you meet a couple others along the way, and I think I've made it through that one, or I'm really close to finishing it. I kind of hit a huge milestone last night when I was playing through, but I can't remember if the marker is actually gone from my menu now or not, or from my quest log. But yeah, I mean, I want to say the Atlas one is the one that, the overall goal of the game from the start was to get to the center of the galaxy, which isn't as important anymore, but I think that's what the Atlas story is supposed to do. It's supposed to push you in that direction, Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what that one is, aside from, what little I've seen. I think that's the end result, is try to get you there. All of the NPCs have, I won't say unique, but there's a lot more dialogue from NPCs in space stations, whatnot. Everyone you go to will say something. Space stations have anywhere from, I want to say 10 to maybe 20 on some of the more crowded ones, NPCs on them. Some of them will give you side quests to do. Some will just talk to you, and you have your typical options of getting them to teach you a word of their language. What's the other one? You can give them there are different items for the races, and they're kind of like their race's artifacts. So you can give them this stuff, and that'll raise your reputation with them as a faction, because each race is a faction, and then there are 3 or 4 guilds that are factions.
Okay.
So when you're doing these side quests and side missions that you're given, those will, over time, rank you up with that faction and that race and unlock basically higher reward missions. Like I think my highest guild ranking now is 4. So I'm getting more missions to unlock, and my rewards are like twice as much currency as before, you know, for a little bit, only a little bit more work too, or the same amount of work in some cases. So it pays off to do that. Aside from, you know, obviously the currency rewards or the item rewards you get from them, it is well worth it. I'm trying to think. One of the annoying things is there are these little like random events when you talk to NPCs. It won't be the usual dialogue. It'll be like, oh, this guy does this and he's waiting for you to react. You know, it's like, okay, I react this way or this way. There's usually 2 options, sometimes 3, but you pick one and it's either happy or sad or angry at your decision, and then nothing happens. Like, okay, but you can talk to him again and it repeats it, and you can choose the other option and nothing will happen.
Okay.
So it's like, this is kind of pointless.
Very pointless.
There are some that will give you a reward or punish you. There's one where, I've actually had a couple of these where you talk to NPC, you say the wrong thing, they literally punch you or something like that, and you take damage. It's like, okay. But if you get it right, you know, they give you items, they give you currency or nanites or something like that. But these other ones, literally nothing happens either way. And it's like, that's kind of, I don't like that. I'm okay with them having, you know, different things to do or say or whatever, and at least, you know, get rid of the dialogue and change it to something else afterwards. You know, don't let me go back through 10 times just seeing what happens when nothing's going to change.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I've spent, I want to say I'm up to like 45 or 50 hours in the game now. Okay. And I have a good bit left to do. I was starting, I actually have a couple of note cards where I was starting planning out what my farming stuff, cause that's one of the best ways to make money at this point in the game where I'm at. So I was mapping out, you know, how many of each plant do I need? So when I go back every 30 minutes or whenever I go back to base really, but you know, calculating off if I were to go back every 30 minutes, you know, what would be the optimal crop placement to maximize my money? Cause I can craft items that sell for 1 million credits each, but it requires me to get these materials. Now, one of the easier ways to do it is just go to a planet with that material and get it. But that, you know, requires me to actually go out and do it. The farming I can have running on the side, and when I run across the materials just doing other stuff, I'll pick them up and send them back to my storage, and they'll be there when I'm ready to go back and craft.
Nice.
I actually have a couple bases that are purely there for the resources next to them. So that I can easily teleport and get some. The stuff doesn't... It's kind of odd with the respawns, because some stuff does seem to respawn, but some stuff doesn't. And even stuff that does respawn doesn't necessarily do it at a consistent rate. So I'm really confused on, you know, what determines if this place is going to respawn anything. Like one of my bases I built in the middle of essentially a tree farm. They're normally, to get materials from something, you shoot it, and that material breaks off and, you know, teleports into your backpack, you know, video game style. But there are others where you have to go up to and hold the action button, and you, like, pick it off the tree, you know, like a plant or something. So I landed in the middle of that, collected it, and I was like, you know what? This is great. This was a ton of this resource. It's like 700 of them, more than I could hold, you know, almost. So like, okay, I'll just build a base here. But I went back and it's never respawned. If I fly around the planet, I find tons more. So that's still cool. You know, I can, just do that if I really need the material. But I would expect at some point this should respawn. but I don't know what that is yet. Because, like, the one I'm thinking of, growing it in my place would only take 30 minutes. Yeah, 30 minutes, which is essentially 2 planet days.
Yeah.
I think a day on any planet is roughly 15 minutes, if what I read was correct. So, if I'm gone from the planet for an hour, it's not unreasonable to at least have some of them grow back. But maybe they never will. Maybe I picked them and, that's it. I don't know. I don't like the idea of that. But
yeah, me either. Like, I can see how that would kind of sort of force more exploration, but I'm not like in your mind, if you go somewhere and you're like, I need this thing, you go to the place, oh, I finally found it. Here it goes. And then you go to reset it and it's like, yeah, it's not here. I don't like that. Yeah.
And I think, like the frigate missions, they reset daily. I don't know what time yet. I haven't quite figured that out. I think it's like 9 a.m. or something, my time, Eastern time, I should say. Because I don't know what my time is. But nothing else seems to really go off that timer other than the missions, there. Probably the ones in space stations do as well, but I always have those checked out anyway. And if you have one checked out, I mean, I have it claimed as if I'm going to do it. I think those reset, the ones that you don't have claimed, daily as well. They also reset if you turn one in, it fills it in with something else, which is useful. Cause I'll go do them and I'll turn in like 12 of them at a time afterwards. It's kind of funny. There was a bug. I think they fixed it, at least somewhat, where if you completed a quest with the same name, it would complete all the other ones for you.
Oh, shit.
So I had an instance of they're your typical collection type side quest where it's like, okay, I want 50 of this item. Okay, sure, I'll get it for you. Well, I collected the items for like 5 of these fetch quests at once. Had them in my inventory, but you don't turn them in the same place. It's like, okay, well, this one's over here, this one's over here. I'm like, okay, well, let me figure out what the closest one is. I'll go turn that one in and then, progress through it. I went to this first one, turned it in, it took the items, and then I had 4 other completion messages pop up from turning in these fetch quests. The items were still in my inventory though. So I got credit for these 3 other ones for free because I turned in the one. That part has been fixed. It won't let me turn them in, or the other part of the bug, if it didn't autocomplete like that, was instead of having to go to a different system, it acknowledged the spot as me being able to turn in the quest here.
Wow.
So it reset the turn-in point to the spot, so I didn't have to go from system to system, which is really good. But that seems to be fixed. One I ran into earlier or before was taking a picture, because there's a photo mode in the game, and some of the little side missions, they want you to take a picture of a certain thing. Some are as simple as take a picture of a building. Okay, sure.
Okay.
Take a picture of a land animal. Okay, sure. There are some for more obscure things, like take a picture of a portal or a monolith, which are going to take a bit longer. Not that I haven't been to them, but I don't have any, marked on my map right now, I don't think. But before, I had taken a photo and it marked off like 5 of them. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll go turn them in. The photo was nothing to do with what they wanted. I think the one I did was, it wanted me to take a photo on a airless world or airless planet. And I finally found one. I was like, will this count? And it did count. And it also counted for, some animals and some other stuff. There were none in the picture. So it's some of the bugs, there are game breaking bugs, there are annoying bugs, but some are pretty funny like that and just completely trivialize some of these things, but it's not bad. It's not like game breaking, making it too easy type bugs. I know there's a dupe glitch that people found. I don't know if it's been patched or not. I didn't bother doing it, but it basically double any items. So you could just, make ridiculous amounts of money that way.
Right.
Yeah.
If you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the item that I got from my storage container might have actually been duped, but it's only one, so not a big deal. But I think that might have actually been what happened there. Thought I took it, or I had it in my inventory where I took it out, but when I deleted it, didn't think I did, so it's still in there. So I don't think it was supposed to be in there when I got it back, but I've also confirmed after that items stay in. So and that wasn't even the dupe glitch that I heard about. So if that's one, it's news to me.
Yeah. If you had to recommend this game to people, like, who are the people you would recommend this to? Like, if you're interested in this kind of gameplay, or if you like this kind of gameplay, this is going to be up your alley. Like, who is this game for?
So if you like sandbox games, you should go right now to Steam, and I think you can go on consoles as well for even less, but on Steam right now it's half off. This game is totally worth $30. I don't think you should pay $60 for it. I don't think it's that good, despite all the time I'm putting into it. For most people, I don't think it's worth $60. For just about anyone that has any interest in sandbox games, I'd say $30. You'd be silly not to do it. If you don't like sandbox games, don't get this game. There's not enough story elements, etc., to balance out the fact that it's a sandbox game. And if you don't like sandbox games, this one isn't going to change your mind at all.
See, that's what I've noticed about myself I think with Just Cause 2 being the only exception, is that, like, I'm all for a sandbox game, but eventually just running around or just checking off boxes will eventually get old.
Yeah.
Just Cause 2 got away with it for me for so long, and did the scope is what made me put that game on my list, is the fact that it is huge. Arguably, this has to be larger because it's dealing with the universe. But yeah, eventually I would say the combat is where it would fall after. Like, okay, I'm running around, I'm exploring, I'm gathering rocks. Kind of bored now. Well, let me default to combat. After that, the story. And I don't know, I think eventually the game would get old for people. And if you're saying that $60 is too much, then yeah, $30 seems enough to be a passive entertainment, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, and just the exploration part, if you just do that, you can spend so much time doing it. There's so many different types of planets. I've seen some on stream that I've never run across yet. I ran into one earlier that had bubbles just floating around.
Nice. And
it was otherwise pretty much barren. It was really odd. But I'd seen it on a stream, so I wasn't super surprised at that one. But there's so much variety, and even on the same planet, they have biomes. So you can land on a part of the planet, and you're like, okay, I got what the planet's about. You fly out to orbit, do a quarter rotation around it, land, it'll be entirely different. There's still core materials that'll be there, but instead of being, like on some of the planets, they're like half water worlds, which I don't think any planets are all water. I don't think I've run any that are completely water, but you can fly for a couple hours in one direction and still only see water. Going out to orbit is really your easiest way of traversing long distances. Typically, if anything's going to take me longer than 30 seconds, I just pop up to orbit, boost over, and then go back to the atmosphere. There's so many different planet types. And once you get into more advanced systems like the one I'm going to, almost all the planets are exotic in some way. Some planets are different just in the weather. Like there are superheated rainstorms, snow planets, toxic planets, irradiated planets. And that's just weather effects, there are others that have physical differences. The one with bubbles earlier, it was No, that wasn't even that one. That was a crimson planet, which I don't know why it's called crimson, but that's just what it's called, and it has bubbles. But I ran into another one. It's a dead planet, which is interesting. There are planets which I haven't seen yet called glass planets. Those look really cool. And yeah, it's the animals. There are some really funny looking animals, some cool looking animals. There are quasi dinosaurs on some planets. I haven't run any in my game, but I've seen screenshots of them. There's so much of a variety. I think one of the issues when it first released was you go to planet and the animals would be essentially the same. So it's like, okay, yeah, I'm really exploring. There's really this diversity, but now there truly is.
That's a caution of mine and a hesitation of mine is that it seems like, I'm hearing from a lot of people that once you go to like the 20th, 30th planet, like, all right, you've pretty much seen what needs to be seen. Mm-hmm. That bugs me.
And, it depends how much you explore. And like I said, how much you explore of each planet too. Cause you may find an area, it's similar to another planet, but if you go to the other side of it, it's completely different, something you've never seen before. And I think that's kind of something to be aware of. I didn't even realize that, until I noticed on a stream I was watching, they went to space, and I was like, wait, if I look at the planet from space, there's kind of this clear line, so to speak, where things change. It goes from water to land, or it goes from green to brown, or something like that, and it's like I said, complete biome change. Often the animals are different, or it'll share some of the animals, but then there'll be ones you can only find in each biome. Ultimately, I've only been to maybe like 10 systems, which isn't a lot. Most people, they hopped on from one to another, but I have this core area I've stayed in, and I've only hopped to basically find other races, or if a quest requires me to go to another system. I've been able to spend 50 hours, on roughly 15 planets total, with having, I think, 4 planets as my core. Cause I have my planet with my base on it, my alpha base, which is where I built all my stuff at. And then I have some other bases, like I have the one that's in a irradiated planet. That's the one with those planets I was talking about not respawning. I have one that's on a scorched planet. That's my scorched base, because there's a resource there I need. I think I have one on a frost planet as well, because there's stuff I need there. I just set up one. I put one on that dead planet, base death, I call it, because it's really cool. Nothing to do there, really. I mean, you can get some items from it that sell. As far as resources go, not a whole lot of them. Actually, no, that's not true. There's that's my cadmium or whatever. One of the 3 rare resources. That's my base for that resource. My next objective is to go, and that's in a, red system, which is one of the 3 not standard. There's red, green, and blue. And each of those requires different equipment to get to. I unlocked the second one. And I went there. Actually, I think the bubble planet had the cadmium, and the dead planet is in the blue system. And I need the resource from there, and then I can get the green engine to go to the green one and get the green resource there. Or green then blue, rather. So I have these things to do still, and like I said, I'm in the same little 10 core area. I haven't gone more than like 500 light years from where I started. And the core is probably 180,000 light years away, so I haven't even progressed towards that objective. There are these portals you can find, and that's probably how I'll get closer. I'll find a portal, put in some coordinates, and hopefully get closer, and hop from there. But some people, they don't hang out in the system longer than to do whatever objectives they have there, and then they move on, gather some resources, refuel, keep going. Looking for, the perfect planet to put a base on, which my main base isn't my permanent base. That's just where I'm doing everything right now for my big exploration later. I'll build up money, get a good ship, and then I'll travel. I'll probably have to travel a little bit for my ship. There are certain systems that are better for getting the rare ships. So I'm kind of, once I get these rare resources, I need to basically cap out, or not cap out, but have discovered everything as far as minerals and resources go. Once I have those, I'll have all the ingredients I need for anything I come across, any upgrades I get or want to craft. I'll be able to do all that and progress without worrying about it.
Nice.
And then, I'll start looking for a planet to put a permanent base. One I'm actually going to put some thought into, instead of my little prefab circle space house things that I just stack up. It'll actually be, probably on a planet where there's not drastic weather like the one on my main base. It actually switches from heat waves to cold waves.
Yeah.
In the span of like 30 minutes, it'll go from one to the other. And
that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool from a, exploration and from that planet perspective. It sucks for my base to be there.
Yeah.
So I'm outside working my farm because most of my farm's inside, but then I started expanding outside, just because putting it inside is ridiculous. So I kind of have a big, kind of area of pallets essentially I'm creating, then putting these, hydroponics things on them to grow my plants. And while I'm out there working, I'm like, okay, I'll be in the menu and I'll hear the beeping from my stuff getting low. I'm like, oh, right. I need to get on my menu, stop crafting stuff, go inside or refill my shields, and storms will pass. Like it won't always be, a heat storm. Some planets will. Don't get me wrong. Like the most extreme planets, it's constant superheated rain 24/7. And that's kind of one of the things is there are planets you literally can't survive outside without babysitting your, hazardous, equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much to do. I wish I could talk more about the multiplayer, but so far I've just been playing by myself. But hopefully next week I'll be able to talk about multiplayer some.
I got to tell you, what you said earlier is it kind of brings a lot of kind of made me think of Breath of the Wild almost, or any exploration game like that, where the way that Breath of the Wild is designed, you could go through the main quest of that game. You could go through the main area and hit up, 15, 20 shrines, whatever. But the magic of that game, the draw, the appeal, what puts that game almost at a 10 out of 10 for me is all right, I'm on a cliff. I'm just going to fucking go somewhere. And then 20 minutes later, you're like, you know what? I was actually going this way, but this thing seemed interesting now. Let me go check this out. And then 20 minutes later, you're like, I was going this way, but I'm going to go that way now. Yeah. And then 4 weeks later, you're like, I'm not anywhere close to the quest and I really don't care. Like I'm having fun just exploring. Are you saying that you're getting that kind of vibe with this game?
Oh yeah. I'll be on a planet and I'll be like, all right, I'm here to get this resource. That's the only reason I landed, because you can scan from space and it'll show you like the 4 main resources you get from the planet, 4 or 5. Typically the rarest ones you can find there. And I'm like, all right, I need to land here because it has silver. All right, I need to find silver. I fly around for a bit. I'm like, oh, hey, there's a building here. Okay, well, buildings give stuff. They can give you a blueprint or maybe just an item. Maybe just nanites, whatever. But one of the big things for the game, at least for me, with the ship I have, is fuel for takeoff. Because flying around doesn't really take fuel. When you speed up, basically, not faster than light travel, but the fastest speed your ship can go, that takes fuel. But when you take off, that takes the most fuel, essentially. Getting up off the ground, which makes sense. But it makes landing a tougher decision, because it's like, all right, with the ship you start out on, you can take off 4 times with the amount of fuel you can hold. My ship I have now, I can take off a whopping 5 times without having to refuel, which sucks. But between my ship fuel and my frigate fuel, I think today was purely almost entirely stocking up on fuel for my frigates. Because the more you send out, the more fuel it takes, of course. But I also have stocked up on some of the materials I need for my ship so that I can make those faster, which isn't as bad. I can go to pretty much any market and buy this stuff. But when you're flying around, a lot of the buildings, and especially like trading posts and stuff, they'll have little circles that light up when you get close and you can land in them. And there's kind of an automated landing sequence when you get close enough and press the button. But the big thing about those is not only are they really close to, whatever that building is, but taking off from them is free. It doesn't cost any fuel. So when you see a building, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to stop because I don't want to waste fuel. But when you see a building and it has this indicator next to it, which is very obvious to see from really high up, I'm like, okay, I'll stop. Even if there's nothing there, it's not costing me anything but a little bit of time to check, Yeah. So it's like, okay, I'm here to find this resource. I find different resources. I find these drop pods or monoliths or things to do, these, what do you call them? The emergency beacons. There's so much stuff to do in between A and B, I may not find the resource. I've left planets without ever finding the resource I needed.
Damn.
It's probably on the other side, like I said, in a different biome. But I spent so much time there, I was like, okay, I've spent 3 hours on this planet, haven't found the resource, I'm just going to move on, because at this point I'm just going to keep finding other stuff. I need to force myself back to some sort of path that makes sense. That's kind of why I was doing my farming planning earlier, because I keep getting sidetracked, and there are other ways to make money, but this is something I can have running and always teleport back to my base and make money off of it. I don't have to worry about taking my time to go find these artifacts to sell or go from planet to planet to scan things. Because scanning things when you start off gives you a little bit of money, but you can get upgrades on your scanner that increase that amount of units. So like when you first scan them, it's like, oh, hey, 300 units, whoopee. But these scanner upgrades will increase it like 5,000%. So I think the highest I've personally gotten was like 360,000 credits from scanning one animal.
Wow.
So you can just literally, once you have those upgrades, which are really easy to get, you can just go planet to planet and scan animals and plants, and that's your income. You can explore and make money at the same time. But like I said, I kind of stay in this core, so that's not really a huge money maker for me. When I do go to a new planet, it's really nice. I've made a large chunk of change off of it, but that's not my main source of income, and I don't want it to be, because I have things I'm trying to accomplish without going too far and doing all these things, at this point. I'm not ready to branch out yet. So farming is my primary source of income, or will be.
Well, it seems like at a minimum you're getting enjoyment out of it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing that you feel, you already said, but yeah, it's worth at least the $30 you spent.
I mean, I spent $60. I bought it at launch.
Oh, well. But it's worth $30 if anybody want to buy it right now for $30.
Yeah, if you're a fan of sandbox games, I totally think it's worth $30 at least just to try. I mean, it's $30,
Yeah.
I mean, really, I don't regret spending the $60 on it with the amount of time I put into it at this point.
Yeah. It's finally paid its dividends out after all the hubbub for you anyway.
Yep, 2 years later.
Yeah. Well, it's cool stuff, man. I'm glad you're getting enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Do we have any news to talk about or anything else? Otherwise, moving to
I guess the only thing I'll mention, since I didn't really talk about Destiny 2 stuff, they started their Solstice of Heroes event. It started on the 31st, I think. So a couple days ago. And that's why I'm saying I'll need to go back and play, because that event started. There's a armor set you can get, and they're doing it a little differently. You get the armor set at essentially the green rarity, which is the lowest, and then you upgrade it by doing certain actions. So instead of having to get drops over and over or gathering some currency over and over to do it, you get the set, and then you have to upgrade it by doing stuff, by playing different modes, finding different things, So it's a nice little change from what they've done in the past. Haven't even started it yet myself, but I'll hopefully be able to put No Man's Sky down soon enough to do that. It's kind of hard right now because I'm kind of back in that, whether it's No Man's Sky or Destiny 2, I'm only playing one game that doesn't really have an end. So, yeah.
I feel like that's kind of an idea I get from No Man's Sky. The outside looking in is that I see like a shit ton of checkboxes opening up. I see a lot of to-do lists and a lot of exploring, but I feel like eventually it's just going to get to I've done enough. I've done enough. The thing with Breath of the Wild's exploration is like, the exploration was great, but also it was the added thrill of, oh, there's some enemies down there. Oh, there's an enemy or a group of enemies, or oh, they're fucking on horseback. Okay, well, how am I going to handle this situation now? Or oh shit, that's an entire camp of them. So yeah. I don't know, man. I'm not sold on that game just yet. Even at 30, I know that sounds bad, but it's just I don't know the aesthetics. It seems very. It seems generic. I don't know another way to put it. I just don't see enough wow and pizzazz to make me get in there. But I will say, you actually had me pulling up the Steam page almost when you said that the exploration is like Breath of the Wild, because that is appealing to me. The mindset of there's a lot to just go fucking see, Yeah. So, we'll see. Time will tell if I ever get around to that side. But right now, I'm still kind of I'm still a no. I don't have any other news either. I can't think of anything else major. I'm trying to think if there's another game that I played, and I'm not going to do a fucking Kingdom Hearts like I did last week. I don't think so. I think pretty much from the duration I've been playing. And like I said, there have been other ones. There have been there's still a bunch of other PlayStation games in my library, PS2. There's still my entire backlog is always at my beck and call, but for whatever reason, I'm sticking with Wild Arms 2 right now. There may be a slight, 1% chance that I may just start getting bored with this game, but it hasn't hit so far. So have you touched the Mega Man X Legacy Collection? I have not, because I own all of them, and I think there's a couple things that made me slightly interested in getting them, like the Maverick Hunter mode. That I could be wrong, but it's a mode in the first one where you basically fight two bosses at the same time, which sounds interesting. But yeah, I mean, I have all that stuff, so it's not really going to offer anything new to the table for me. It's good though, definitely good, especially with it being out on Switch for new audiences to get in on the Mega Man fun. And smart idea to release all these before Mega Man 11 come around as well. That way, Mega Man 11 is not Mega Man X, but any more Mega Man love you can throw out there. Yeah, I did see Merchoid. This is I can't believe how much shit I'm buying thanks to Facebook. I know Facebook's just loving that right now, but there was a Merchoid ad that came across my Facebook feed that they're going to be selling 30th anniversary Mega Man coins, and I went ahead and snagged up a couple of those pre-orders. Those come out in September as well. I've never bought a coin for fucking anything, but the coin looked pretty cool, and I wouldn't mind having one, so... happy early 30th birthday, Mega Man. So, let's slide on in to today's topic, which is going to be times that you've been stuck in video games. The nature of this, it's more the spirit of this than the actual phrase. I learned that when I was looking around for reminders or other stories from other gamers that have been stuck in games, and it seems for a lot of people stuck in game is a universal thing where I was stuck on this boss forever and the solution was to go grind. I don't necessarily constitute that as, or count that as fucking constitute. Really? Am I throwing that word out there? I don't even know. I don't know what that means, apparently. I don't know if I would necessarily count that in this phrase, because take I want to say take any boss. You go you go fight the boss creams you. You're like, oh shit, I'm done. You go out, you grind about 10 levels, and you go stomp its ass.
Yeah.
That's usually how it works. That's not really stuck for me.
Yeah, and I agree. I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, you know, I mentioned, yeah, I'm technically stuck on this boss on Octopath Traveler. I just maybe need a couple more levels or change my characters. You know, it's not like I'm hard stuck and I have to figure it out. I just have to do it.
Now, if a boss had like a particular way to beat it, then I could be swayed to count that. Like if you were playing Final Fantasy VII, you were fighting Emerald Weapon. Yeah, you know, stuff like that. Another good example is Yasmat from Final Fantasy XII, which it is a long fight, but it's also the fact that it constantly shifts weaknesses. It shifts abilities that you have to use, abilities that it's immune to, etc., etc. If it is a themed style boss, I could see you being stuck because you're like, I don't understand what they want from me. What do they want me to do? Yeah. But if the solution is, and that's RPGs. I mean, I count this toward anything. If you were playing, I don't know, fucking Mario 64 and you couldn't get past fighting Bowser the first time, well, you just gotta fucking swing Bowser around better. Like, you just gotta get good. That's not, if you didn't know that that's what you had to do, that I would count. I think that's a defining difference, is when they throw something at you and you're like, I didn't know to do that, or I couldn't figure out what I had to do. So if you're playing Mario 64 and you're trying your best to do stuff with Bowser and nothing's working, you're like, I can't beat him because I'm not even doing any damage. Mm-hmm. And then you find out that, oh yeah, I had to pick him up by his tail and swing him around and throw him at these points on the screen, and those points are bombs. Oh, okay. Then that I would count. But if it's just, I just can't, I know what to do, I just can't do it right, I don't really count that. However, especially for, our audience, if any of you guys want to write in, man, I count whatever. You guys want to tell me anytime you were stuck on a boss for any reason whatsoever, or an area, or a puzzle, or whatever. But yeah, that's the spirit of this. The spirit of this is to bring back those moments that, and I say this genuinely, I hope we've all had, I think they build character in us. Those moments where you're in a game and you're like progressing, you're fucking skipping through this game, flowers are around you, there's great music playing, you're like, yay, this game is so fun, and the game goes, stop. And you're like, all right, well, I got to progress. And they're like, no, you cannot get beyond this point. And you spend days, days, weeks even, trying to figure out what the fuck the game wants you to do. And then when you finally have the aha moment, be it hopefully you figured out on your own, or you just said, fuck it, the internet exists, and you figured out the aha moment, you go, oh, okay. Well, how the fuck was I supposed to know that? That's what I'm looking for. That's what we're trying to capture today. They may not all fit that criteria, but that's the spirit of this. I say this because, I mean, even in the boss mentality, there are still bosses out there that they're not just, level up. A good example is Lost Odyssey. That's an RPG that you can't go back and backtrack. Like, you can't go back and grind. They give you the enemies that you have up till that point. They give you the items you have, the magic abilities you have, and all that. And when you're there, if that boss beats you, and I'm pretty sure he's going to, you just gotta fucking do that fight better. And you have to do the fight better. You also gotta kind of sort of hope for better RNG, but it's not, okay, let me back off and then go grind for an hour. It doesn't work that way. And I also realize that Lost Odyssey is kind of an outlier. Not too many RPGs do that. I would also say that there are RPGs out there where the bosses level with you. So, there are times where it can happen. But the spirit of this is that you're stuck, or you were stuck, times where you were just frustrated and hopefully didn't break too many items. And Chris, we'll just bounce this back and forth, man. I don't know how many you came up with. I got I don't have many. I have like 7 or 8, but we'll just bounce them back and forth and, just tell stories about these games and these fucking moments in life. In no particular order as well. My first one I've got on my list is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, this is going to share a lot of the games, some of the other games I have on my list, and this game shares something in common, is that they are universally known for being either difficult or rage-inducing, or it has a part in it where everybody got stuck at. And I promise you, because I'm not the guy to be a fucking contrarian, some of these they're going to sound like I'm being contrarian, but I'm not. It's just I've had different experiences than other people had with this game. For this game in particular, it is known throughout the world for being so incredibly hard and so like that fuck that game because of the second level in that game, the dam level. For those that aren't familiar, Ninja Turtles, it's an NES, it's a side-scrolling beat 'em up, slash 'em up style game. You control any one of the four turtles. They all have their own independent health. You can pick up different items throughout the game. They have bosses, varying amounts of enemies. They try to sort of follow some of the cartoon graphics, but you're going to see a lot of enemies that you just never seen before. It's a fun game, but I will argue that it is very difficult. I don't know why. I don't know who decided to make the game that way, but whatever. The main difficult spike that people know about this game is the second level, the dam level. And the way the level works is you are swimming, which up until this point is a new mechanic for you. Matter of fact, if you're in the first level of the game and you fall into the water, I believe you either die or you lose a shit ton of health or something. Like there is a swimming, and then suddenly you're swimming. So go figure. Nice. Yeah. And I could be totally mistaken. It could also be like if you fall in the water, you just start back at the beginning of the level, or you get washed to a new area. I don't know. Either way, you can't just fall into a place and swim and get back out in the first level. Second level, nothing but swimming. You start the level in a little mini kind of NES cutscene. You jump into the dam. And in the dam, you are swimming and navigating through these fairly narrow passageways. The passageways are actually not narrow. What makes it narrow is that there is this pink seaweed that's hanging vertically and throughout the area. And if your turtle touches the seaweed, even like on the pixel of the seaweed, you take damage. I believe you take a half a pip of health every time you hit it. Another problem is that as you're swimming through that area, you are like, it's floaty because you're swimming. It's not, it's not direct. So if you realize that you push the swim button too much and you're swimming into the seaweed, it's not, oh shit, let me back out. It's, you're now in the seaweed, you're taking a hit, a hit, and finally you're out. And this is throughout the whole level. The object of the dam is that there are bombs scattered all throughout these passageways, and you have to navigate through the seaweed and through these vertical like electric beams that come on and off, and you're trying to get your turtle to the bomb. When you get to the bomb, they will automatically disarm the bomb and you move on to the next one. There's like 8 or 9 of these bombs. So the first part that makes it difficult is that, and I realize I'm not even talking about mine, I'm just explaining why I understand the dam is difficult. So, I get it, folks. I've been there. While you're trying to, the big overarching task for you initially is trying to navigate the dam and figure out the best path, because there's branching paths. There's a dam up here. There's a bomb over here, bomb over there. And you're trying to figure out the best path while the whole time avoiding all the seaweed. So you're getting better at controlling your swimming. You're getting better at at pathing, and eventually you'll get through it. It's the fact that you have 4 turtles is kind of good. It's in your favor because that's a lot more health you can throw at this level. Eventually you can get past it. It is a pain in the ass. It is very time sensitive. I think you have like 2.5 minutes, something like that, to get through the entire level. And it's really tight for me. I think it used to be like I'd have 10 seconds left every time. So through the timing of it, through the damage, through the pathing, all that stuff, I get it. The dam level is very difficult. I would argue that once you learn the path and the fact that you have 4 turtles to work with, you'll eventually get past this. The difficulty of this level is going to move on. You're going to be past it. Level 3 is where I got hung up in this game, and I'm pretty much willing to blame the game on this one. That's something else I kind of mentally added to this list, is I'm blaming either the fucking game or I'm blaming myself. This one, I kind of want to say that I'm blaming the game, and here's why. So, in level 3, the area is kind of set up like level 1, where you're doing platforming, you're going around finding items. I believe in this one you can drive your tank. You have a tank. You can drive the turtle van around, and you can get missiles. I think you could do this in the first level too. I can't recall. It's not even the hang up point for me, so I'm not even worried about it. So as you're traversing through area 3, you start finding these items that look like ropes. They may have had actual names on them, like if you highlighted them it may have said ropes. I don't know. You could see that they look like ropes. Imagine me, a kid. Oh, by the way, this is also the NES era, so this is a long time ago and well before internet, and I had no access to, this is one of those, I just had no access. So if I was stuck, I was just stuck. This was like one of the first NES games I ever had, so I just had to figure this shit out. So I'm going through this area, and I got these ropes. I have no idea what they do. Like, I've tried to select them, try to click them, they don't do anything. So I know that they're not like a disposable item or a weapon like the Ninja Stars or the boomerangs. I just know I have them. Okay, obviously, duh, I'm going to have to use this. I'm going through the area, I'm going through the different buildings, I'm going through the different sewers or what have you, and I get to this, I climb up these stairs, ended up on the roof of a building. I walk around this roof, nothing happens. So, okay, I go back down the stairs, I start backtracking all through area 3. Some other little key things about this game, because this was a Nintendo game, there is no save point. There is no, I mean, you pretty much either die and the game's over, or you turn the game off, or you leave the power on if you want to stay where you are. So, I mean, that combined with the usual, if all your turtles die, the game's over, yada, yada, yada. So, if I got stuck, when I got stuck in this game, I would get to level 3, I get to area 3, do all this fucking tracking around. Oh shit, it's 11 o'clock at night, gotta be at school in the morning, time to go to sleep. I just turned the game off, started all over again the next day. This area is probably why I got so good at the dam, because I tried to blow through area 1 and blow through the dam to get to area 3 to figure out where the fuck to go. So, another day would go by. I'd get to this area 3. I'd grab these fucking ropes. I was smart enough to know that there was something with these ropes. These ropes did something. I was also smart enough to tell just by the general direction that the game was pushing me to that I had to get across this rooftop. Obviously, I'm gonna have to use this rope to get across the roof, but I don't fucking know how. I don't understand how to use them. I would try going on the roof and pressing the item. It would do nothing. Just stuck. I was stuck. I knew where to go, and I thought I knew what to do, but I did not know how to do it. One day, randomly, for no fucking reason, I had the ropes, I got on the roof, and I either walked to or stopped at a certain point or something, and the turtle just fucking pulled out the rope and just threw a fucking rope across the other side, and I went across the roof. So apparently I was supposed to stand in like a very specific spot, or, and again, this is over 2 decades ago. Maybe I stood in a specific spot and then it let me use the item. I don't remember, but I remember going on to that roof and walking all over that roof several times and nothing happened. And then one day it just fucking did it. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to use the rope now. So yeah, you just use the rope and you go across the roof and you go to the next area. Yeah. So I'm blaming you. I'm blaming the game for that one. Not blaming myself. I didn't have anybody else to ask, and I didn't have availability. And man, the brighter side of it, again, hey, I got really good at the damn level. So flash forward years and years when it's really hip and really cool to bash Ninja Turtles because of the damn level. I'm like, man, fuck that damn level. And this is going to be a theme for me for a lot of these games where it's like, yeah, I hear what you're saying about this game being hard or because of this, but nah, it's this. So, Chris, what about you?
You know, when you presented this topic, I was like, okay. And I also thought about, I was like, man, I'm having a hard time thinking about stuff because, you know, I think, you know, based on what you're saying earlier, part of it's probably attributed to how much internet access I had, you know, for pretty much ever. I was like, okay, if I'm stuck, I just go look it up.
This is something that I've come across myself, is I've noticed that a lot of these titles that I'm bringing up, or a lot of times that I remember having games in my life where I actually got stuck, it really stopped for me around the SNES era, because after that, the PlayStation era is when I started having access to internet. And then beyond that, like, shit, I was done. Yeah. I mean, even in the SNES and PlayStation era for me, for whatever reason, I know they existed before that as well, but I also started slowly gaining access to players' guides and Nintendo Power and GamePro having all these tips and tricks areas and damn near full guides in them as well, like full level tutorials almost.
Yeah.
So it was at the time in my life, like the NES, the Game Boy, and early SNES time in my life, where if I was stuck, I just didn't really have a way to figure it out. And I think that's going to be the same for you. Maybe shift up the years, but yeah, you know, if you just got access to you're only going to have so much patience where you're like, look, fuck it. It's time to go figure this shit out. Yeah. Come here, internet.
So the first game I'm going to present is old, not as old as yours, but it's a Sega game. We've talked about it once or twice, you know, here and there. Biohazard Battle. Mm-hmm. I had mentioned that I recently went back and played this game. We've talked about a little bit of how difficult it was, you know. I progressed using save states to a certain point, which save states weren't really necessary until I got to the level. I think it's like the fourth one or something. Or might be third. It's when you're in the jungle again and there's the big crab things.
Yeah, I remember him.
It's either near the end of that level or the next one, but it's one of those things where it's like, how is this possible? And that's where I left off on my new playthrough, because it's like, well, first off, I don't know how to damage. I think it's against the boss after that, or it might be the boss on the jungle crab level. But I'm like, first off, how do I damage the boss? Second off, how do I not die? Because there's so much stuff on screen, no matter which weapon I have, I can't hit the boss and not die, or, you know, I hit the boss and I still die and the boss isn't taking damage because, you know, you got that classic flashing or whatever to indicate you did damage. Not seeing any of that. Still couldn't tell you how to beat it. But that's a pretty much hard stop, for me on that game, you know. Yeah. Until I go back. I don't think that's a game I'd actually go look it up. I think something like that, there's only so many combinations, so many options, you know, you should be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
But man, I spent and this wasn't spending a lot of time. I know we spent a lot of time back in the day, so I can't tell you how long we spent then. But that day, you know, I beat the first few levels are like, you know, 5 minutes each or so. I spent like 15 on this one. I was like, all right, I guess I'll move on to something else for now. Come back to that some other time, because man,
you bring up a good point. That's something else that goes into like the criteria for stuff like this, and we're talking just for this discussion. Again, if you want to talk about a boss that was bad for you or a level that was just hard for you, it all. If you're stuck, you're stuck. But I think some of the criteria that knocks this, you know, left or right is, okay, did the game give you enough to where, okay, man, you should have figured this out? I will tell you now, there are a couple on my list I'm going to bring up today where the game gave me damn near pointed the finger and said, you need to go that way. And I said, I don't know what you want me to do. It can't happen. But a good example, and I wish Adam was here. I bring this game up all the time. This is one of my wheelhouse games. Is Mylon's Secret Castle for the NES. This is not one of my games. It's just a game to give a good example for this. A lot of games in the third, I would definitely say the third generation of games, and even slightly in the fourth, they started becoming incredibly difficult because the idea behind it is, oh, well, if you go buy this player's guide, you know, you'll figure it out. Or if you subscribe to X magazine, you would have known that, you know. Nintendo was, as much love as I give Nintendo, they were very bad for doing this, especially with their love for Nintendo Power. Like the example I'm going to talk about now is Milon Secret Castle. I want to say AVGN did a video on this, so you can check that out to get all the rage-inducing commentary that I'm not going to tell you right now and bore you with. His video's better. Just saying. But then my commentary on this game, if you're looking down upon this game, the idea that I took from it is there is shit in this game that is so incredibly obtuse and obscure that you need some kind of guide to get through this game. Like, you'll walk into a room and you'll see a door and you're like, okay, well, obviously I need a key. Let me figure out where the key is. I kill all 3 enemies in the room. No key drops. Okay. I try to move around the room and just search walls and search things. Nothing. I go out of the room and go into a previous room, kill enemies, do searching. Nothing works. I try spamming different items and throwing them against walls or doing whatever. No. The solution is, if you have your cursor on this item and you press this button and you walk up to the orange, not the blue, but the orange square, and then push back and then play the whistle, a key will appear. That's the kind of shit that pisses me off.
Wow.
That's the kind of shit where it's like, no game, no. This is not where somebody can figure this out. And you're not even given proper tools to let somebody figure this out. What you have to have is some kind of guide, either a player's guide or some magazine subscription that happen to have, you know, a guide in it to figure it out. And you definitely saw this a lot back in the day. You could argue that there are some games that did it in later generations. Another one comes to mind is, I believe it was Final Fantasy X. There was a weapon that you could get in that game, but it was like you couldn't open these 4 treasure chests. I may be confusing that with 12, but either way, shit like that bugs me. Like, stuff that's completely so far out there, and there's no way. Like, what am I supposed to do? Go through the game and not open treasure chests? Who does that from the get-go? And how would I know that those 4 specific ones, and yada, 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 yada. So yeah, just some food for thought for the whole getting stuck criteria. Sometimes it legitimately is not your fault. In the older generation games, there's some shadiness to it. There's design in there where it's like, let's get some more money out of it. I'm not down for that at all.
Yeah.
Next one I'm going to talk about. Oh man, this is an embarrassing one. This is very embarrassing. One of my still debating on where it's going to be top 3 or top 4 Zelda games of all time. I'm looking at you, Breath of the Wild. Is Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. This is one of my absolute favorite Game Boy games ever. Love this game. This is one that I think I got it. I think I got a Game Boy that came with Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening for a Christmas present or a birthday present or something. And this game is so good. I treasure this game. Love playing it. Just good music. Good Legend of Zelda game all around. So the first place, and mind you, Chris and audience, I wrote Nintendo personally for both of these solutions. That's how desperate I was, and that's how I was as a kid. Fuck it, if I can't figure it out, write the company. So the first place of 2 that I got stuck at in this game, and I mean for days on end, was Bottle Grotto. Not the area, not the dungeon, but the boss. The hook to Bottle Grotto, which was I believe it was the second dungeon in Link's Awakening, was the dungeon that you got the power bracelet, the ability, the item that lets you pick up heavy objects. I want to say in this game you could not pick up even like pots until you got this. I think that was a key thing.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. I think so. Either way, the idea was when you got this, before you had this, when you try to pick up objects, lots of objects, it will tell you you're just not strong enough or you can't pick that up. When you get the bracelet, you can start picking up everything. That's big key number 1. I would have to go back into this dungeon and see if there were actual pots in this level, because if there were, that's going to add even more embarrassment to my predicament. But I got the bracelet. I made my way through the dungeon. No fucking problem. Easy peasy. Piece of cake. Puzzles, easy, no problem. I get to the boss, and I cannot beat this boss. I had to look and see when this game was released and figure out. This was early teens. I think this was very early teens for me. Anyway, I'm fighting this boss. I can't figure out how to beat him. I'm swiping him with a sword. He looks like he takes damage, but nothing happens. I hit him with a bomb. Looks like he takes damage. Nothing happens. I hit him with a sword and then blow a bomb up next to him. Nothing happens. I'm trying all these items. I think there's like some powder that you have. I think I tried throwing a powder on him. Didn't work. If there was an item in the inventory, I tried using it in some way, shape, or form. I was using my sword and tink, tink, tink against every wall. I said, fuck it. Maybe that's not good enough. I blew up every wall. I'm telling you guys and gals, I'm talking from power up to power down. I was stuck on this boss for days. I was visiting family in Missouri, and my grandfather had a typewriter, an old clickety-clack typewriter that he let me use, and I had the idea to write Nintendo or type Nintendo a letter. Hey, can you help me? I'm a dumbass, and I can't kill the Bottle Grotto boss. 2 weeks later, I got a mail letter back from Nintendo. You said that you had the power bracelet, which you had to have to get to the boss, hit the boss, and then pick him up. And I'm telling you, I felt like such a fucking dumbass, even for a kid. Because, duh, Chris, of course you pick up the fucking thing. I'm telling you, I think you couldn't even pick up pots in that game, but if you got the bracelet, you could. There were so many context clues to just, this is how you do it. And I couldn't figure it out. Just could not figure it out. So, yeah, I went into the fucking room, hit him with a sword. He was stunned. I had the bracelet on. I picked him up and threw him at the wall and then progressed through the fight. Holy hell. That is I'm going to say the most ignorant I've ever felt about a game, because I should have known better. I wasn't some Legend of Zelda guru at that point, true enough, but I should have figured that out. That one, Nintendo, that one was on me. So, how about you?
You know, I should have put that one on my list too, because that's one of the few games I actually kind of stopped playing because I literally couldn't progress. That boss you're talking about, I never saw it.
Wow.
I don't know how far in the game is. Maybe that's where I was stuck at. You know, maybe
that makes you wonder where you got stuck at, because I think that's like the second dungeon in the game.
Really? I feel like I got through more than two, but maybe not. But I got to a point where I literally had no idea where to go next. I spent hours scouring the map, trying to trigger anything, trying to go in places, trying to, figure out if there's a dungeon I was missing or whatever. But I literally couldn't find the next area. I mean, to this day, I'd love to go back and play it and just to see how bad it was, because I was even younger when I was playing that. When you say you were in your teens, I was probably 10 or younger.
Bottle Grotto is the second dungeon in Link's Awakening. And look, I want to stress this too as well, by the way, because I know this is going to sound like I'm like talking down to you or talking shit to you. I totally am not. And I'm not saying any of that to Chris, and I don't think he's saying it to me either. This is another talking point of these games. There is nothing that infuriates me more than I'm telling somebody about a time that I was stuck in the game and they're like, I did that on the second try. Like, dude, I don't fucking care. I'm like, I hate people that act like they're so perfect in games like they don't get stuck. I'm sure and I know this because of Suikoden. I know there are games out there that you have gotten stuck on where I was like, yeah, I went past that. This is going to happen in life. Like, your trophies in life should not revolve around, I got that and you didn't, because we all have those. funny story about Suikoden. I know I've told this on here, Chris, but I just for emphasize this point. One of the first times I ever got to personally play a PlayStation at my house, a friend of mine let me borrow his, an ex-friend of mine let me borrow his. He let me borrow Doom, Resident Evil, Twisted Metal 2, and Suikoden. Again, Suikoden in that mix is still crazy how random out of nowhere, especially given the popularity that game had back in that time, which was nobody knew about this game.
Yeah.
Anyway, the deal was he was going to let me borrow the PlayStation for 2 solid weeks, but he was stuck in Suikoden, and he said he didn't tell me where. He just said it was somewhere toward the early part of the game, and if I would get past that part for him, he would let me keep it past the 2 weeks. And yeah, this man was stuck in like the first, I think, 10, 15 minutes of Suikoden in Gregminster. And yeah, you laugh, and I could too, but I can understand how he got stuck. That you have to, the king tells you to go do this thing, and you got to go talk to this guy, and he says, yeah, you're going to go on this mission. Hey, go talk to the Dragon Knights. They're going to let you fly a dragon away from here. The actual area where the Dragon Knights are, the access to that is kind of a little obscure. Like there's kind of some grass, some bushy area that's in the way. So unless you specifically know that's where to go, which they even may tell you that, hey, it's on the east side of the castle, and you just didn't pick it up. But I got past it for him, and I'm like, man, this is way early in the game, but I could see that. I could see where you just didn't see that as an opening. That makes sense. But this shit, the Bottle Grotto thing, that's like, nah, man, come on. I got the bracelet in the level. I should have figured that out. But yeah, if everybody gets stuck in games at some point, whether it is a boss you just have to grind to get past, or there's a puzzle you don't figure out. I would argue that there are times where getting stuck in a game is actually a good thing, because one of the great things about playing video games is the aha moment. It's the and puzzle games, RPGs with certain puzzle triggers. A lot of these games are known for this, and I will admit you get enjoyment out of it when you're in an area and you're like, I know I have to go forward. I know there is a way to progress, but I cannot figure it out. And you either put context clues together, or you scratch your brain and work it out, or trial and error, whatever. And when you finally have the aha, that's a great thing. You know, it's not something you always look forward to, especially when you're having a lot of fun with the game and the game's just stopping your progress and you're, cracking your controller into. I get it. The bad things happen. But, being stuck isn't always bad. Sometimes the game companies engineer that to give you a place to think and to feel good whenever you figure it out. So, what was your next one, Chris, or did you have a next one? I'm sorry.
So, real quick before we get off that, just to be clear, and just make sure I'm talking about the same game. This was the one that had like the big egg and the owl and stuff, right?
Yep, that's Link's Awakening.
I couldn't tell you. I think I'd have to go back and play to figure out where I got stuck, but man, I have never had such a rough time in a game as I did with that, trying to figure out what to go. And it wasn't like I was fighting a boss and losing, or didn't know how to beat a boss like yours, Yeah. It was literally, I couldn't figure out where to go.
It happens, man. And I've noticed a trend, too. It can happen in Zelda games. There are lots of Zelda games that have this, where do I go? Or what do I do? Or how the fuck was I supposed to know that? We're going to get to a couple of those, folks. Trust me. But yeah, man, shit happens. I don't judge. You'll get stuck for who knows what reason. And I guarantee you there's going to be times where I played a game and I've got stuck and you're like, yeah, that wasn't even a thing for me.
Yeah.
So what's your next one?
So another old one, sticking to the Sega generation for now, Altered Beast. That was another one where it's just kind of figuring out, how to live. That one, I think it kind of ramps up really quick is kind of the issue with that game, or where the difficulty curve is. Because you start out and you're like, okay, I punch these guys, they die. Pretty straightforward, There's not a whole lot of them. They may come from both sides, but not Okay, that's manageable. I think it's about the third level. It's either, I want to say it's the one where you have the were-tiger, or maybe the one after that. I don't think I ever got the bear.
I think I've gotten the bear before, but it was like once or twice in my life.
Yeah.
That's way into the game, I think.
But right about there, it really scales up in difficulty.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's just getting stuck because it's just so difficult to live. And that's kind of a trend with these old school games, is they just scale things up on you pretty quick in some cases like this, where you don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
Because I think in a lot of modern games, you see where it kind of ramps you up bit by bit by bit, one more enemy at a time, and then you kind of get into that rhythm, and you're able to acclimate to it a much quicker.
Yeah. I think this one in particular as well. Didn't we find out that Alter Beast was based off an arcade game?
I think so.
I think it was. And even if it wasn't, it's fine. The point I'm getting at is a lot of these older games that were ported from arcade, or even a lot of games that were around it for some reason, even games that seemingly not arcade ports, kept this super high difficulty mentality in place because that's just how they were made. Like, they weren't necessarily concerned with making it difficult because of challenge. They were just making it difficult because that was like the trend. The Contra nature. Let's have one hit, you're dead, and you have like two lives, and it's game over. Like, let's make as many games like that as we can. And games today are like, no, we have continues, and we have checkpoints, and we have automatic saving, and we would much rather you just figure out the puzzle than start the whole fucking game over.
Yeah.
And this is something for, generations like mine and earlier, and even ones, like Chris's, like, man, I have put my time in. I have done my time with games that are like, yeah, if you want to, there's 9 levels in this game. If you want to beat it, you just got to keep playing the first 8 over and over again in succession until you get to the 9th level, and then figure out the 9th level. I am perfectly fine with games being as progressive sensitive as they are these days, because man, I remember the old shit. It felt kind of rewarding to just do it, but man, I've already done it, so fuck it. Give me save states, give me continues, let me keep my progress, please. Next one for me was same game, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Second time I got stuck in this game. Thankfully, the only other time. So, I'm in, I want to say, the 6th or 7th dungeon. It's called Eagle Tower. And I'm progressing through this level. I forget what the special item is in Eagle Tower. And I forget, it might have been like a more powerful glove. I don't remember. I don't remember the gimmick item is what I'm getting at. But I made my progress through this level, and one of the things about Eagle Tower is that it had multiple floors, which were accessed via stairs. You could also, it had that kind of floor effect where if you fell down this hole that had this special color, and you would fall down to the next level. It was a lot of vertical maneuvering in this level. And I got keys. I opened doors. I'm not sure if I did or did not get the special weapon. I forget. I think I did fight the mid boss in it before I got stuck. I don't remember. I kept making as much progress as I could in this tower, and I couldn't progress further than what I needed to. It got to that point where there was a locked door that I did not have a key for, or there was an area that I had to move blocks for that could not be moved, or whatever. I gone as far as I could in Eagle Tower and could not progress. I think this one was really bad because it got to the point where I left Eagle Tower and went back to the town and tried to talk to people. I tried to go to the dungeon before it and see if maybe I had picked up a key. Like, I did some serious backtracking. Could not figure out for the life of me how the fuck to progress in this level. I wrote Nintendo again. Hey, Nintendo, it's me. Yep, the Bottle Grotto guy. I'm stuck again, not on level 3, thank God. I'm stuck on level 6 or 7, whichever one it was. and I can't progress through this tower. Help me out. They wrote me a letter back, and I this is something I wish about my life, man. I actually had I wrote Nintendo like 8 or 9 times, and I had all those letters because they wrote me back for every single one of them. But I lost them. I had them in a manila envelope somewhere, and they got lost in life. Not in Katrina, fortunately. They just got lost somewhere. Anyway, they said, hey, so in Eagle Tower, there's multiple floors. You've seen that. Have you seen there are 4 pillars in certain rooms. These pillars are essentially what are holding up the floors above it, all the way up to the top. If you've noticed in the level, there's like a black shell. If you pick that shell up and throw it at the pillars, one by one, you will break the pillars, causing the floor above you to fall down and basically marry with and make a new level of the one that you're on, so on and so forth. So the idea was you were over time supposed to collapse this tower, and by doing so, it would open up / create new areas for you to explore. This one, I'm going to give this one to you, Nintendo. I could see some context clues of how this, like, no other level had this pillar situation, and no other level had that black shell. I think that I had picked that shell up and maybe even had thrown it at enemies, but I never even, not even by accident, threw it at a pillar, and I didn't think to do that. Maybe I'd take the blame 50-50. Maybe this is something that I had enough clues for to just figure out. I just don't think in my mind that I would have said, fuck it, what else can I try? Let's throw this shell at the pillars. It sounds common sense, but my youth mind at the time just could not figure that out. I did not grab it. Sure. And of course, when I did it, I progressed through the level no problem. I beat the brand new boss no problem and moved on with life. But that held me up again for close to 2 or 3 weeks to a month, because I kept playing it, kept not figuring out, backtracked, wrote Nintendo, got a letter back. So yeah, definitely a sticking point for me. I didn't feel as bad as I did for the Bottle Grotto one, but yeah, still got a sticking point. This is the second Zelda sticking point for me, by the way. So yeah, Chris, what about you?
So jumping up a little bit in time, not very far. You talked about Final Fantasy VII Emerald Weapon. Emerald Weapon is pretty tough, especially if you had the time limit and didn't know how to, get rid of it. But what really got me was Ruby Weapon. Man, I literally just learned in like the last year additional gimmicks to that fight that I didn't know about. It's one of those that, back then, the only strategy I could come up with to even, come close to beating it was the old, Knights of the Round times however many, on everything. Yep. Counterattack, revive, anytime I can do Knights of the Round 16 or 32 times, do it.
2 times summon, 4 times summon, fucking mimic. Yep. Just fucking spam damage.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I beat it, but I'm trying to think if I beat it without cheating. Because Final Fantasy VII, I beat it legit, but I also played it a lot with Game Shark. So I'm not actually sure if I ever beat Ruby Weapon without cheating. I could go back now and do it, because I know more about the gimmicks, but man.
I'm trying to remember and I think I've only done Ruby and Emerald Weapon respectively once each in my life. It was one of those like, okay, I earned that personal trophy, moving on. I remember Emeralds being the time thing, but I think wasn't the only really gimmick about Ruby was that the fact that he like takes one of your characters out right at the beginning of the match. Yeah, so he had to fight the match with 2.
It can actually take out 2 if I'm not mistaken.
Oh wow!
But like I said, I learned a gimmick. If you start the fight with your 2 party members dead, you revive them and you have all 3 and you don't lose them.
Nice.
So it's one of those things like, okay, well, I never would have thought about that back then. I wanted to go in full health, full everything. Why would I start with dead people?
Yeah.
And then there's other tricks to try to avoid the, big attacks and stuff. Stuff I've learned from basically speedrun strategies, beating it under-leveled with minimal stuff. What's the least you can do to beat Ruby without cheating, essentially. Because there are glitches that make it even easier. There's one involving Vincent that lets you do ridiculous damage. Or I don't think it increases damage, but what it does is it skips the Knights of the Round cutscene, but does all the damage.
Nice.
Which saves a ton of time.
Yes, saves a ton of time.
Yeah, because that's like, 45 seconds minimum each time it does it.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think it's like 30 seconds every time. But doing it 12 times over and over and over, it adds up.
You said you have the PC version of that, right?
Yeah.
I think I do too. I should know. No. Yeah, I do actually. I can't remember. Does the PC version have a way to skip the summon cutscenes or fast forward them? I don't think so either.
I wouldn't be surprised, but if it does, I've never used it.
Yeah. Well, let's hope the remake has that.
I don't know. Maybe it looks so good you don't want to.
Yeah. Maybe. Well, yeah.
But yeah, so Ruby Weapon, that was a really tough fight. Like you said, you lose one of your party members immediately, and I want to say you can lose both. So fighting, and it's not like dead where you can revive them. They're literally thrown off the screen. Yeah.
Yep. Inaccessible. Done. Yep. You cannot use this character in the fight anymore. You're now down to 2, and apparently maybe even down to 1.
Yeah. I want to say you get down to 1, but maybe I'm just that annoyed with it that I thought it was 1.
Depending on what level you go in, and without having that knowledge, you walk into the fight and they just wipe a player off the field. That's difficult. Yep. That's a lot of shit that you can't have anymore.
And you can't predict which ones. It's not like, okay, well, I'm gonna, not put anything good on that character. Yep. You had to have good stuff on all 3 of your characters, or you're gonna lose, whatever strategy you're going for, because that character's gone.
Did you miss resetting the game when you were trying to breed chocobos? Get ready to reset again, buddy, because you lost the character you didn't want to lose.
Yeah, I reset a lot at that point.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right, well, another one for me is Blaster Master for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This is one of my favorite games on the NES. I love this game. And it has its difficulty spike in it as well. I do have my own personal trophy of going through this game and not using the pause glitch, but I'll tell you now, folks, when I beat the game all the way, I use that fucker every time, even to this day. I love the pause glitch. It makes the boss battles go a lot quicker. But none of the bosses I count as me getting stuck. I'm sure that I remember going back to this game multiple times because bosses would kill me. What hung me up on this game the most, what gave me the days and weeks of I don't fucking know what to do, this game was one of the first games that really made me understand the level that a company would go to when it comes to backtracking. It made me understand that, look, okay, if you, and again, I say that because this was like one of the first few games I ever played for Nintendo. So this instilled in me at a very early age that, look, man, if you're stuck, you may have to go way back. And I mean way back. Pay attention to your surroundings as you're going through a level. Take mental or physical notes of things that you see. This is one of the first games that kind of instilled the Metroidvania, hey, keep a running memory of what you're going to get into because you may have to go way the fuck back. Because in Blaster Master, when you left Area 6, I ran all over level 6 trying to figure out how to get to level 7. Could not figure it out. I went back to level 5, went all over level 5. And again, I'm saying this, and this goes the same thing for Zelda, mostly any of these games. I'm not saying these in one setting, and especially a game like this where there's no continue, there's no save point, no password. When you get to level 6 and you beat the level 6 boss, it's like, well, I just need to figure out where the fuck to go. And I'm gonna leave my power on and hope the power doesn't go out, or hope my mom doesn't turn it off or whatever, because I now have to figure out where to go. So I would beat level 6 and I would run all over this game everywhere. And the progression point to level 7 was all the way back in level 2 of this game. Now, again, I'm going to blame this one on me. I'm not going to say this was the game because I didn't understand this type of gameplay until this game. I didn't get the idea of, you may have to, this put the B in backtracking for me. This is the first game that really put the B in backtracking. Because now, as I played the game in my later years, or actually even any year past that, I realized that as you're progressing through level 2, you can come across that area and you can see that, okay, there's an area that I can access, but I can't access it now. You have to remember, at this point in my life, I had not played like Castlevania 2. Symphony of the Night was not even in thought. So these games where go over here, there's a door, don't know how to go through it, go over there, I need to get up to that, I need to jump higher to get up there. That was not in my mindset at all. This is the first one to do that. So I'll give this one to the game. You did your part. You showed that there was stuff there. I needed to learn that, you may have to backtrack a pretty good ways. It was just unheard of at the time to go, damn, man, I'm 6 levels in this game. I got to go all the way back to level 2. Yep. I did. And once I did, I progressed. I went to level 7 and had my heartache there. And from then on, I knew the route and the path and all that. So, yeah, that's another sticking point for me. Chris?
All right. So, jumping forward in time a little bit more, I think I've talked about this one briefly on here. And you may or may not have much to say on it, but I don't know which Souls game it is. I want to say it's Dark Souls. But there is a level, and, Souls games, I get it. They're difficult. I can handle, getting one shot by enemies because I'm not doing well. That's part of the game. If I'm not, like you talk about, if I'm not controlling right, of course I'm going to die.
Yeah.
But one of the most frustrating things I've ever experienced in a game is the scaffolding area.
Yeah.
You're on basically like a cliffside and a ravine type thing, I think it is, because you can actually eventually go to the bottom down the scaffolding. But I hit the bottom.
About Blighttown?
Yeah, I hit the bottom of that thing so many times with my dead body from 1,000,000 miles up. It's ridiculous. You hop out, it's like, all right, I'm on here, I'm on this little tiny platform, and oh, by the way, there's 6 enemies that I have to avoid, and any one of them hitting me will knock me off just to death.
Yep.
And I spent so much time. I want to say I spent like 3 hours in that area just trying to make it through. And I'd occasionally get killed just because of bad combat. It happens. But more times than not, I would just get knocked off the level. Full health, no damage, just get knocked off. I'll roll off myself, which, yes, that's on me. But it's, oh my God. That is one of the most infuriating things, if not the most infuriating thing I have ever played, was that part. I think Dark Souls. Is that Dark Souls? Is that Demons?
That was Dark Souls.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you now, the Blighttown itself has a lot of bad memories around it for lots of Souls people. It's known for it has a long trek until you get to bonfires. It has enemies that are constantly attacking you, fall damage every other place. At least one random invasion style boss that will attack you. The poison, when you walk in the swamp area, there's poison. There's another vertical trek on the other side of Blighttown that you got to go up. That also has potential to fall down. And on top of all that, at the time this game was released, it was resource heavy as hell. So there was lag everywhere, and you're trying to either traverse a very narrow walkway or you're trying to fight an enemy and your game's just going oh, you're dead. Not only because the shit's difficult, you didn't see where to go. Blighttown is known in the Souls verse as being like, this is not so much a difficult area, it's can you get past this with your own fortitude, I will see Dark Souls for being difficult and having many sticking points because of the lore progression in that game. There are many times in Dark Souls where in order to progress, it's like you had to read the item description of a ring and interpret that with another item description and match that up with the text that a person told you, and hopefully you'll figure out where to go. I mean, a random example is figuring out how to the Four Kings. Like the fact that you have to have that ring attached to your finger whenever you fall. Shit like that. Just, that game is known for it. I will tell you now that Dark Souls was one of the first games for me in my older years where it's like, look, you got about 3 times for me to try this shit and figure out where to go until I throw the book up and go, fuck it, Google, where do I go after I beat this boss in Dark Souls? Because I cannot figure out where to go. I have no problem admitting, man, I use guides. I use them all the time. But I will do my best to give myself some sort of effort. I will try to figure this shit out. But Dark Souls is definitely one of those known for, yeah, you got about 3 or 4 parts in here that's like, how was I supposed to know that? Oh, well, if you read this and interpret that, fuck that. No, that doesn't work. The game is already hard enough, damn it.
I still haven't finished it, and that's only because I'm playing it blind. I'm not looking anything up. So I spent several afternoons playing that. I was streaming it. So I probably put 15, 20 hours into it, before I got sidetracked by something else. But that last day I was playing, I got pretty stuck, as well, just not being able to figure out where to go. And it's one of those things where I'm sure I missed it, or I actually thought my game was bugged at one point, and it might be. I don't remember if I ever got past that point, but it's like, yeah, you need to go over here and go to this door, you know? I was like, okay, it's locked. Okay, cool. Get the key. Took me forever to find the key, but I finally found it. Go back to the door. It doesn't open. Yep. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll call it there and figure it out another time. And I never went back to it yet.
I'll tell you now, that game is known for having those. I want to say all the Souls have some locking points up like that, but this is a testament. It's a positive and a negative to this game. Like, the positive of it is like, Dark Souls has a story. It has definitive lore. The problem is the actual lore is really only known by Miyazaki himself, but he has put the lore in the game, but he's made it almost cryptic and almost interpretive at points. So the lore kind of goes over people's heads. It goes over my head a lot of the times. I kind of have a very decent grasp of the lore in that game, but there are times where I'll watch videos by like prominent Souls people, and they'll be like, let me tell you the story of this NPC, or let me tell you the story of this warrior. It's like, how the fuck did you get that? Well, it's this description, this talking, this place, the way this place looks during this time of the day, etc., etc. I'm like, man, that's too much for me. That's just way, way too. Is it deep? Yes. Is it rich? Oh, very. But I don't want to jump through 27 hoops to understand why your armor is the way it is, you know?
Yeah. And I didn't have any issues with Demon Souls. I played that. I beat it pretty quick. Yeah. I had no issues. I played it blind, no strategy guides or anything, you know, looking stuff up. The only thing I did do was once I got to a certain point, I did some of the soul duping, because I was going to grind out the levels anyway. I wasn't going to progress until I got to a certain point. So I did that, you know, and spent 20 minutes on instead of 5 hours. And then I progressed like I would have anyway.
Yeah.
But that's it. I didn't have any issues, but I picked up Dark Souls and I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. So another game, I made a note on here that I was stuck in Tales of Destiny for the PlayStation 1. I have went through that game again recently, and I tried to keep a mental note of where I was. I think I went through and maybe even past the castle that I was stuck on in Tales of Destiny, but I can't really remember. I do plan to go all the way through that game. It's another one of those got lost in the current games. So I played it in my teenage years. I got stuck in some castle, spent days upon days upon days of trying everything to figure it out. And it didn't work. I played it, 34, 35 years old, and I got sidetracked. But I know that game is known for, it's another great RPG that is known for in order to get through the castle or dungeon or whatever, there's puzzles involved in it. One that I did get stuck on, and I'm definitely wanting to blame the game for this one, is God of War 2. I mentioned this several episodes back, but I got stuck in God of War 2 back in the day. And I want to say maybe about midway through the game, somewhere around there, you come across this room where there are these circles on the floor. And I can't remember if they were lit at the time. I should know this. I just went through these games, but you can clearly tell that there's circle areas on the floor. And I think the game either through just flat out tells you, or there's a hint system or something that says, hey, you want to progress, you got to kill these centaurs that are new enemies, I believe. You got to kill these centaurs in these circles. And I'm telling you, I spent so many days trying to kill these fucking minotaurs. It could be because I had it on a higher difficulty. I don't know. But one, I had a rough time killing these centaurs. And then I had an even rougher time getting them to kill and have the kill registered inside the circle. I tried. This was like controller breaking for me, how angry I was getting at this shit. Like I knew what to do, but it wasn't doing it. And then, kind of just like the fucking ropes thing, one day I was fighting them and killed it, and lo, the kill registered, and then another kill registered, or however many needed to register, and then boom, it worked. Like, I think you had to have like the entirety of them inside the circle, or like the greater half of them in this. I don't remember. And what aggravates me the most about this is I was stuck again on this part for days. I got past it eventually. I worked through it. And I can't really think of any other time that I got stuck in God of War, any God of War game. And by the way, this is God of War 1, not 2, sorry. But I was playing God of War 1 recently before the new God of War came out. I made it past this point in the first try. Now, that could be experience. I mean, the game was much easier for me because I've gotten more action game experience over time, and I was already used to the combat through several of the games like this one, and God of War's combat was very easy for me to pick up, and I just killed them in the circle, and I got on the first try and moved on, and I'm like, man, fuck this shit, man. There's nothing like being stuck and then going back and just blowing through it like it wasn't nothing, After that, I've only got about one more. Chris, what about you?
All right. Well, I've got two more, so I'll go to my God of War one.
Yeah, I'll just do mine last then.
I mean, we can alternate still.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, God of War, the most recent one. I played through it. We talked about this on the hardest difficulty, and it sucked. Because unlike a lot of games, harder isn't just, more health. It's more health, more abilities, new abilities, alternate versions of the same abilities and stuff. So, I'd go into a stream, and this was after I played the game because I didn't want, spoilers. But I'd go in and be like, yeah, you just have to do this. And they're like, no. And we had that talk where you're like, yeah, I didn't have any problem on that. You just had to do this. And I was like, nope. Because my mechanics were different than your mechanics. And the game overall was super difficult. I talked about being stuck on that one fight for hours per phase. It was a 3-phase fight against the guy. And I was stuck on each phase for at least an hour each. The longest one I think was like 2.5 hours because of the difficulty. That's just because of playing on the difficulty, which, it is what it is. I'm playing on harder difficulty. That's my fault. I'm going to have to be better at that. Now, what I think really fits, this topic, is the Valkyries. Because those are mechanic-heavy fights. And you have no context on how to do most of the stuff. Basically, you see an attack, you're like, okay, I need a dodge. That's your natural reaction. Oh, I need a parry, because I can't dodge. Well, what do I do when I can't dodge or parry? Neither one works. What am I supposed to do? I have no other mechanics to rely on. It's like, okay, is there something in the environment? Nope, don't see it. Oh my God. And I don't think I've talked about this on here, but I actually had it spoiled for me what the mechanic was on the difficulty, for the Valkyrie. It's just turning around. You had to literally turn your back on the boss.
Wow.
And that was the gimmick. That's the way to take 0 damage from the attack. Otherwise, it's a one-shot kill no matter what you do.
Yeah. I cannot think of another enemy or boss in that game that had that gimmick. This is exclusive to the hardest difficulty. Wow.
To the Valkyries only, and there's 2 Valkyries that have it. I think the hardest one and then the second hardest one. They're the only ones that had it.
Yeah, no, not a fan.
Yeah.
When it comes down to how the fuck was I supposed to figure that out? What clues did you give me? No, it's just up to me to just try. I'm Link and I'm hitting walls to see,
Yeah.
Ugh, hate that. So, my last one is another game that has a highly, I would say popular, loosely, difficulty spike in it. Notorious is this level. But mine is not for the same one. Again, I hate saying it like that because I sound like such a fucking contrarian. But I've actually heard over time that it's a culmination of different stories and different tragedies in this game that have made the whole entire area be what it is. It's just, in my experience, everybody has said different things, and I've been like one of the few that's been like, no, it was this. This is why I was stuck. So, my last one is Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Hey, what do you know? Another Zelda game, right? And it is the Water Temple. Yeah. Just saying that alone just brings so many, just everybody around me automatically goes, oh no, the water level. When I personally question people about why they hate the water level, it's usually revolves around the fact that you have to move the water up and down, and that's cumbersome. And also having to unequip and re-equip the boots every time you want to go down or up, stuff like that. It seems like a lot of cumbersome. Basically, it's a long dungeon and has a lot of headache to it. And I'll agree. I'll agree with pretty much everything people complain about. And I'll agree with most people on the topics and the points they bring up when they say that the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time is the worst dungeon ever made. Yeah, I'll help you jump on that bandwagon because I get a lot of design flaws in that level. But I rarely, and I do mean rarely, hear my reason echoed from other people why I was stuck in the Water Temple. I was stuck in this level when I want to say this was pretty much toward the last third, if not the last quarter of the entire level. Just like the other games I mentioned, back and forth, days of retreading this dungeon, moving water up and down, pushing things, and this is Ocarina of Time, so this is 3D, so there's a lot more shit to interact with. Mm-hmm. Shooting arrows, throwing bombs, hitting walls, moving cameras around at angles to see what I can find, trying to light things on fire. I mean, you name it. I was trying everything in this temple, and I could not move on. I think there was a locked door, and I want to say kind of like Eagle Tower, I think I got to a point where I left the Water Temple and went to other areas, thinking that maybe I used a key and I wasn't supposed to. In fact, I'm pretty sure I did. And then came back to the Water Temple when I couldn't find another key and I couldn't access any other level, etc., etc. This one I'm going to blame on you, Nintendo. I'm going to say that this could possibly slightly be me because of maybe I should have just paid more attention, but fuck you. So there comes a point when you step when you first step into the water temple. You have to access this cave, and when you exit the cave and you're in the water temple area, you walk across, apparently, a slightly discolored block. So roughly the size of Link himself. It's a small block. It's not a huge area. At some point, when you raise or lower, I want to say raise the water, that block apparently is made of wood, and it will move with the water. So that block will move, and Link can go through the hole the block was covering up, and you can access the next key or whatever the fuck I had to get. That pissed me off so much, because the way the level was designed, I don't even know if this was like connected directly to where it was. I'm sure it was, to make me an asshole, but it's not something that remotely was directly in my vision, thought process, notes, whatever. I walked across this area who knows how many times going to and from this temple. I walked over this thing who knows how many times, and never was like, looked down and was like, oh, hey, that's peculiar. And again, it probably is. Again, send me screenshots of the block. I'm sure I'm totally wrong. It's probably the floor was gray, and that was like, deep purple for all I know.
It was neon pink,
Sure.
Out like a sore thumb.
But I never remember walking over that thing and going, okay, keep that in mind. That's going to be a thing. I found that thing without a guide, without somebody telling me, completely fucking random. I think it was to the point where I was seeing if, I think the idea for me at the time was to raise the water level of the temple and then leave, or lower the level and then leave the temple and see if maybe that affected the water of the pond. Because if you remember, the way that you access the water temple was you had to like shoot the arrow in the sun or some shit, and you had to lower the lake's water enough for you to get in the temple. So I thought, okay, well, maybe if I adjust the water of the temple, that'll adjust the water of the pond, and maybe I can go find something. And then as I'm exiting at one of those times, I'm like, there's a hole here. Hey, there's a hole in this floor. Oh, what the? And that was, I'm telling you, like, how the fuck was I supposed to know that? And I'm sure, I know, Chris. I know 70,000 gamers out there are like, bruh, that's the first thing I noticed when I walked in the water temple. Fuck you. I'm giving you that one, Nintendo, because it was made in just such a way where it was like, you just didn't miss the odd colored block. Yeah. Oh, so aggravating. So yes, when I hear people talk about the water temple, it's so meme worthy, it's so popular, it's so bad. Yes, it is. But for me, that's the reason why. I could care less about the boots and the water up and down. Cumbersome as it was, that wasn't what pissed me off. What brings my blood to a boil was that fucking block. I will never forget that block. Floor's all yours, Chris.
You feel better?
I feel a little better. It's glad to finally get this on recording and get it off my chest again for the 30th time,
Yeah. I can't say I experienced that because I never played it. So my last game on my list is one of the hardest games currently known to man, and that is XCOM 2.
Okay.
Now,
that's a bold statement, Chris.
XCOM 2 is hard for one reason, and that reason can be summed up by 3 letters: RNG.
Oh, our favorite, right?
Yeah. So XCOM 2 is and XCOM, the first game, are both very notorious for percentages not being what they actually are. There are actually mods out there that show you the real percentage.
Wow.
Yeah. So that aside, even when you see the real percentage, it's still pretty RNG heavy because, say you have a 99% chance to hit, but then you miss it 5 times in a row.
Wait a minute.
That's called getting XCOM'd.
Wow.
That's a term in the community. You got XCOM'd because that is what will happen. the game is so difficult. I still haven't beat the second one. I did beat the first one. I'm not sure if I beat the first one without save scumming, but I know I've been playing the second one without doing it, and I got pretty far. I got pretty far a couple times, but man, I just cannot complete the second one. I've done everything short of putting it on easy and or save scumming. The second one Jesus. It is, God, so RNG heavy. And it's not like, okay, we'll learn the tactics and then, move on. It's, well, I have to hit all my shots or hit enough of the shots, to keep me from wiping on the next turn. XCOM 2 has a new feature where your people actually get injured instead of just straight up dying. I don't think the first one had that. It might have, but the second one takes it further. But your people take damage in combat, they're going to be inaccessible for X amount of time. Well, you get in a fight during that time while you're using your B team, and in that game, it's not easy. You can't just, okay, well, I'm going to level both teams. That's not how it works. You have essentially a set number of missions. You could probably force some extra ones out if you went out of your way, but you're going to fight, so many fights, but the enemies, aside from like some story missions, your enemies are going to vary. Their locations are going to vary. Even on the story missions, their locations may vary for some of the roaming enemies. So one time you may be perfectly clear to walk into this house. Next time there's going to be 4 enemies in there that are going to, murder you as soon as you walk through the door. So it's not only is the game strategy heavy, but it's just very difficult. And the RNG just makes it ridiculously hard. It's brutal. I watched a streamer, actually he was, we talked about E3, in Control. He was playing the Command & Conquer mobile game. He's a StarCraft, or former StarCraft pro. He's still pro level. He just doesn't compete anymore, I don't think. He does more commentary and stuff now. But he does, XCOM 2 Iron Man runs, which, Iron Man means you can't reload a save. You have like one save and you can't reload or whatever. I'm trying to think. It only saves when you exit the game or something like that. So you only can pick it up, when you're going back to play, but you can't reload during the actual gameplay, something like that. And it's been so long I can't think of the exact wording on it. But he does that, on the hardest difficulty.
Wow.
And he'll sit there and he'll play the first level like 30 times in a row, because if he gets shot once, that ruins, strategy going forward, because he now has an injured person that he can't use.
Jesus.
So he'll play it 30 times until he gets, essentially perfect spawns, good RNG on his shots, which, like I said, missing 90% shots is what the game's known for.
Wow.
And, okay, sure, it's still 90%. You're going to miss 10% of the time. But when that 10% is about 70% that you're missing, it's a little ridiculous. So it's a very difficult game. And like I said, I still haven't beat it, and that's on normal, though without save scumming. If I save scummed, I'd probably do a little bit better. But I did that on the first one. I think I beat it without doing it on the first one, but I wanted to go through the second one without doing it. But man, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I guess that's it from my list and yours.
Yep.
I guess it leaves it up to the audience now. You guys are going to let us know what times you got stuck in games. And again, not judgy, whatever times you got stuck. I love hearing the horror stories of puzzles or, triggers or whatever that get stuck. That get people stuck up. I didn't know where to go. I couldn't figure out where to go, and I figured out. It's also great just to hear the aha moments. But yeah, what times have you, audience, been stuck in any video game at all? What times have hung you up really bad? What did you do to figure it out? God, I know it's duh asking in this day and age. I looked up a guide, man. I literally Googled the I'm stuck on blank and figured it out. That's the way that today works. But whatever times you got stuck, what games you're working on as well. What have you been working on? What are you interested in that's coming out? Anything you want to talk to us about. We'd love to hear some feedback from you. Many ways to get a hold of us. You can, we have a Facebook page. You can go to Facebook and search End of Time Cast. It might be how you found this episode right here. We have an email address, same old email address at endoftimecast@gmail.com. That's endoftimecast@gmail.com. No funny letters in there. No funny numbers in there. Just spell it as you heard it. We have a Twitter page. You can search Twitter for End of Time Cast. You can contact us there. There's so many ways to get a hold of us. We would love to hear from our audience. Anything that you want to talk about, any suggestions, any game topics, anime topics, movie topics, whatever. We'll take it all. That's going to do it for tonight. And until next time, I'm Michael.
I'm Chris.
Good night, everybody.